Smartly Uneducated is hands down the greatest podcast in the world. But be warned, this one is not for the faint of heart. With topics ranging from true crime to conspiracy theories, this podcast doesn't shy away from violence or controversial content. Their slogan,
"Oh, we're going to Pluto to see alien titties,"
or
and suck on it till you get some raw milk,
isn't just a catchy tagline. It's the truth. These hosts have a world of knowledge that expands across the cosmos. If you are looking for a podcast that will make you laugh, make you think, and make you reevaluate your life choices, tune into Smartly Uneducated and join the uneducated madness.
Anyways, welcome to Smart. Like, can I jump right in?
Always, yeah. You
let's
always
just jump right in.
intro with us.
I'm gonna leave it in just like this too.
Another great intro.
Thanks.
Always
I work
funny.
really hard on them. Anyways, welcome to Smartly Uneducated, everyone. Father's Day special. We're gonna talk about all the fathers out there who are truck drivers.
This is also
That's a joke. I used to be a truck driver, so I'm allowed to make those jokes, so we're okay. Anyways,
this is also our 50th special. 50th. This is our 50th episode, technically. After season 1 and season 2, this is our 50th episode. So thank you all for joining us. I was hoping to get a good guest on here. I wanted to get Steven Kubecki, but he did not return my emails.
Come on, Steven.
Sent him like 20 emails. He did not respond to any of them. Might have seemed like a bot, but hey, I was really trying to get his attention. He was abducted by aliens, and I was trying to get him to come on here and talk to us. So, Steven, if you happen to see this, I'm going to send this to you as well, Steven. So,
also, I for the future, so speaking of potential guests, we may have a CEO of a company on, and I'm still working on that. I meant to tell you that before we started recording.
Oh,
You saying that just jogged my memory.
that's nice.
And you'll find it fascinating who it is.
Is it a company I know of?
Yes, but I don't think everyone knows of them because of the industry they're in.
Gotcha. 10-4.
But
That's a big 10-4. That's a big
He
hint
was,
for me.
I don't want to give it away, so I'm not going to say nothing, but he's a big deal. We're talking about pretty much being able to have earned on a business level $40 million on a business side of things with the company before being 40 years old.
Wow. Forbes over 40, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. And so, yeah, no, and he's still going and everything. Yeah, he's pretty young. He's pretty young.
I would love to have him on the podcast.
He's older than me, but he's not old. Like, he's under 40.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, he's like 38 or 39.
About 30 under 30 right there, huh? That's impressive.
Yeah. So that's the exciting part. But if we do it, we may end up doing it in person, where we go and set up at his location.
That sounds cool.
So that's a very real thing.
I would like to know more about this so I can do proper research and give him proper questions.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about it after the podcast. It's important. Everyone.
Ben was a trucker. Today we're talking about truckers.
Oops.
who were serial killers and are still serial killers. So just a nice little topic we're talking about today.
Yep, we're going to talk about the...
Somebody come save me.
Yeah, so today's topic is going to be about serial killer truckers, which you brought me... Well, I mean, I knew about things about that, but I did not know that it was still like a ongoing, ever-evolving situation.
Yeah, so I mean...
I thought it was something that was like, oh, they caught a couple of guys who ended up being serial killer, or who were serial killers who ended up being truckers in the past. Like, I've come across stories of, like, you know, people who were caught, but I didn't know that it was still an ongoing thing with potentially going into a whole network of where everyone's connected. We're talking about serial killers. Like, they have their own network going where they potentially work together. I came across some of that information. And that's all speculation, though. They're still investigating. So
yeah.
It's a big deal. So everyone stay frosty.
Yeah, so the FBI released a news statement saying that there are potentially 500 serial killer truckers on the road who are picking up hitchhikers, lot lizards, and all these different types of nomads, if you will, across America, taking them, torturing them, killing them, and then dumping them across state lines and different jurisdictions. So all the police are like pointing their fingers at each other, like, I don't know this person. Do you know this person? You did it. We did it. You're taking charge of this. No, we're taking charge of this. And so everyone's angry at each other, and it's confusing. So these truckers are sort of getting away with it in that regard. They're able to dump these bodies across state lines, across America, and not get caught.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there have been some people who have been caught, and we will talk about those people briefly
Yeah.
in just a little while.
But before we get into the topic, we're going to take just a couple minutes to bullshit.
As we do.
As we do. But no, it will only be a couple minutes. It's not going to be 30 minutes from now.
Oh, hey, I'm getting a phone call. Hold on a second.
Fuck you.
Yeah, dude, I can't golf today. I know I'm a really good golfer. I can't make it into the range today. You have to do those 18 holes without me. Sorry, Jeff. Jeff Bezos, that is.
So stupid. Jeff Bezos, that is. Fucking Jeff. You know who else has a name that starts with a J that we haven't name dropped in a while? Jerry. Fuck you, Jerry. You fucking asshole. I love it. Jinx. Just kidding. No Jinx, because we hate that bitch. Fuck you, Jerry. I don't like you very much. But with that being said, what recent developments do we have? I have a couple. I have a couple recent developments.
Ooh, what kind of developments are we talking about?
Well, first off, this is since we're at the beginning and we have the most viewers at the beginning of
The first
this,
5 minutes.
So please, if there's something you want us to talk about, or if you want us to do this different, like maybe you have like maybe your only qualm with the show is maybe we use too much language, which that's not gonna fucking change. So go watch something else. But that
Yeah, go heck yourself.
heck,
Go heck yourself, dude. What the flip?
is that the same as sewer sliding?
No, man. What
Oh.
the heck are you talking about, bud?
Ninja Turtles.
I'm over here giving a flip, giving a fart, and doing my ding dang thing, you dingus. This is me on Orbit Gum.
So stupid. I'm here for it because Orbit Gum is horrible. So with that being said, all I'm trying to say is, hey, if there's any particular thing you want us to talk about, or if maybe it's like, hey, could you put a note in the bottom of when the content starts? Because maybe you just want to jump right into the content. Submit a request. We're trying to do a poll.
Submit a request. I love
I will
that.
submit your request, and HR will handle it promptly.
And by HR, he means me.
And by Evan, I mean me.
Wait a second. I'm you. You're me. We're each other. We're family.
We were conjoined by the penis at the tip at birth.
Dude, could you imagine that?
And then we had to
Holy-
get it cut off, dude. They had to chop it down the middle, and they had to put fake prosthetic heads on
Wait,
the
down
dicks.
the middle? Do you mean like separate us or like split us like a snake's like a snake tongue?
No, we had to split it like a snake tongue.
Long ways?
but we're still connected, though, so it's just like a talking mouth.
God damn.
That's gross. Let's move on.
How would you come?
Everywhere. It would make a spider web in the middle. You open it up, it's like a perfect. It's like some pig. You know,
Oh my
fucking
God,
Charlotte's Web
babe.
in the middle. It's Charlotte's Web. You say babe?
Yeah, I said babe.
Who's babe?
Babe. Babe.
What?
Yeah, isn't that the pig's name is Babe?
I just thought it was some pig.
It's, the story is called Charlotte's Web,
Yeah.
but the pig's
So
name
Charlotte
is
was
Babe,
the name of the spider,
but the pig's name is
right?
Babe.
Charlotte was
Babe.
the name of the spider, right?
Yeah,
Hey, I can't remember.
that's why it's called Charlotte's Web. It's not talking about North Carolina Charlotte.
Dude, it's been forever. I haven't read that book since I was
Well,
like.
the itsy bitsy spider goes
a
up the
kid.
water spout, and down comes the rain, and Charlotte's webs come right on out.
It's called unclogging the
Dude,
pipes.
speaking of spiders, I've been getting bit by spiders, my man.
Yep,
I've
they're
been-
pandemic of spiders.
I've been playing with my dog outside. I've been exercising outside, and I lay down in the grass because grounding is really good for you. And going outside and standing barefoot and laying down in grass and whatnot is very calming for the soul.
You want to talk about spiders? Speaking of horrific
I
things.
was talking about grounding, but all right, dude.
You know what, dude? I don't care. I'm interrupting. I killed a massive cockroach this morning.
That has nothing to do with spiders.
It was upstairs. It was when I was in my most vulnerable state. I had my pants down. I was
You shitting?
pooping.
Yeah, there you go.
And all of a sudden, I see this big ass cockroach, and like cockroaches are everywhere, like in general. But like we don't really have like a cockroach problem in our house. So it's like every once in a while we'll see one. It's usually whenever like bad storms happen.
Yep.
Things, everything tries to flood in. But that's why I've seen more cockroaches recently, is because all the storms we've had. I was upstairs squeezing out a chocolate dragon, dude.
Ooh.
And all of a sudden, there this thing was on the floor, and I was like, it was in the middle of trying to take flight. The dragon was.
Dude.
And I was like, I can't move. And I like looked around, mighty plunger. I was like, bitch, come here. And every time I tried to like get him with the plunger, he just like it missed him, and he would just move and then like chill and then move and then chill. And I was like, where's something that covers more surface area? Because every time we hit with a plunger, you know, it's like the edge of the rim.
Yeah.
The toilet brush was next to me. And I was like, ooh, basically a spiky club.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he got impaled in like a million ways because I smashed him with the brush and it's hard bristles, so he was like skewered through all of them, and he was like, and I was like, time to scrub you down the toilet with my shit.
That's good eating right there, bud. You gotta
Yeah.
grill up some of that cockroach meat and gobble that
Do you
down.
like how I did this on camera?
Yeah, I did. I was
That's
gonna.
a two-hander, dude.
Man.
Sometimes two-hander is the way to go. Women, take notes. Unless your man's got you don't have the ability to do the two hands,
His equipment isn't that great.
or maybe you don't have two hands. Maybe
Oh.
you're missing a limb. If that's the case,
Just attach a fleshlight to it, and they're good to go, bud.
I was gonna just say put your mouth on it too. But hey, you know what? This went really gross.
This went
and
really
inappropriate.
south. I mean,
I'm gonna stop because I'm a respectable person. Okay.
and this is a respectable show. Hello, everybody.
And just so you women out there, if you took offense to that, just so you know, I'm retarded. I'm gonna say that now. I'm retarded. I'm a loser. And but my wife, for some reason, still loves me. It's because she knows who I am deep down, not for the jokes I make. She does not find me funny. She thinks she's the funny one.
and if you find
and
offense,
that's okay.
If you find offense to any of that, Ben is gay. He is very well known in the sphere of Grindr in the gay world.
You know what, man? Not even gonna fight that. Not even gonna fight that. I know what battles to choose, my man. Now, I will say this, and this is the last thing I'll say on the bullshit side of things. You brought up the gay part. When I was in Austin a long time ago,
Okay.
I went visiting, not like that. When I was in Austin visiting friends, I was like partying days, like 19 years old, whatever. We were down on 6th Street, you know, where all the bars are and everything. And there's one, like, we were in that area. There was like, you know, there's a couple gay bars in that area, right? And there was like two of the people in the group, because I didn't know them. They were like friends that they made at college. So I was like with a group of like 10, 12 people. And a couple of them were gay. And they were like, oh, let's go to this bar. So the word got through the group finally to me if we're going to this bar. I didn't know that bar. I don't live in Austin. It was like when I was like 19 and I had only been there once, like, and not to party. So like we ended up going to this bar. And yes, underage going to a bar, but it's Austin. They did it for
Naughty,
everyone. No
naughty.
one gave a fuck. It's college town. You know what I mean? So we went in there, and all of a sudden, we're sitting at this little bitty like high-rise table in the corner that's right next to one of the edges of the bar. So we had like two places to mount up, right? And I'm sitting at this little table, and dude, next thing I know, I was just getting drink after drink after drink just given to me. Like it was being bought for me, and the bartender would walk it over, give it to me. And the bartender was blatantly gay. And so like, but then I was just like, I knew something was off about the place when we went in. It just didn't seem like a normal bar / like.
Yeah, all the dudes were wearing thongs.
Well, there's a ton of chicks in there too. There was chicks.
Usually they feel comfortable and safe.
Which they shouldn't, because that's not how that works. There's a lot of gay guys who say they're gay, but they like to swing both ways, but they don't talk about that.
Yeah, they're a switch hitter.
Yeah, so you're not safe from the drugs being put in your drinks, even at gay bars. Just throwing that out there. Anyways, moving on. So
Wow.
next thing I know, I kept getting drinks like purchased for me and brought to me, and every time I looked over, because the guy would say it was from this table over yonder, like these people over yonder. Every time I looked over, I thought it was these girls. It was not. They were just next to where the guy was pointing. I just didn't assume the guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you're gay. You just figure that it was nice girls trying to make a friend.
say I'm gay, so I thought it was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, gotcha. So like I'm doing that, and I'm just like, oh, but everything about the place that I didn't drink the drinks because I'm not much of a drinker. Like it's not my thing.
He has a beer in his hand.
No, I'm not. I have a beer at the podcast now. I'm talking about back then. I was not someone you would ever see even drinking a beer.
And I gotta say, I like that you're a local expert on drugs and drinks. As a former trucker that you are, I'm sure you have a lot of experience in drugging beverages, as these truck drivers do.
Drugging beverages?
Drugging beverages, yes. Like a good old fashioned Bill Cosby.
Good old fashioned Bill Cosby, my man. No, that's not the case. Thank you very much. But basically, I knew something was off in this place the whole time. It just something didn't seem right, and then I finally realized what was going on. I was like, everyone in here is fucking gay.
Yeah, brother.
And it wasn't just the bartender. I started paying more. I was observing people's mannerisms and how they behaved and talked and like how they were mingling with everyone. And I realized everyone was gay. And then like the girls that were in there were just like the besties, the friends of the gays. Like they all go out and have a good time together. And those girls like all are in like committed, like no, there wasn't like, I would say majority of the women in there were all in relationships. But going out and partying with their gay friends at
Yeah,
bars, right?
that's
Because
a-
it's like, it's okay because they're gay. I can go party with this guy.
I think it's still okay.
I
for them to
slept
do
with
that.
him and for some reason he got a hard on with my vagina. Makes no sense.
Wow, that's a tangent that I was not expecting you to go on.
Well, you know, they say they're, dude, I've seen it a million times. They say they're gay, but then all of a sudden they're sleeping with some chick.
I've been to a gay bar on accident before.
On accident?
Yeah,
Sure, it was accident.
my buddy and I. Let's call him
Juries?
Jonathan. We went to Beverly Hills,
Ooh.
California, to visit our other buddy. Let's call him Jonathan. So Jonathan, and I were
JJ and I. Yeah.
we're all spending time, and one Jonathan had to go to work for a little while to spend some time. He was the guy we were visiting. So Jonathan and I went to a local bar. We just Googled bar and walked to it, and it was right off of Santa Monica Boulevard. And as we were walking, we were seeing like gay pride flags and rainbow flags. We're like, whatever, it's California. We don't give a fuck. So we pull into this one bar, and you go through like a bead curtain, and we're like, that's a little strange, whatever. So they have cheap drinks. Let's go in here, and we walk in there, and it's like,
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Having a great time.
and it's
great time.
like 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're having a great time, dude.
And the bartender was shirtless, and he was wearing like fishnet pants with a thong on, and we were like, oh shit. Where are we?
Whoa.
He's
where are we?
like, hey gentlemen, what can I get ya? And I was like, I'll take a whiskey straight, please. I had my little whiskey shot, and my buddy Jonathan had his whiskey shot. Went to the bathroom. Dear God, Ben. The glory holes that were in that bathroom
Ew, are you serious right now?
were
Oh,
stupendously large. We post haste left and then went to a comedy show.
I thought you were going to say, like, we post haste got in line. That's what I thought you were saying.
There was about 5 other dudes in there who were sweaty, fat, and like. Anyway, we then went
Posting up to the holes?
no, like this in the bar in general, dancing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, drinking and having a good old time. There's one guy working on a laptop in there, which is bizarre. But
Great Wi-Fi in here, guys.
so we then left almost immediately. Went to go get a burger and then went to a comedy show down the street. Which comedy show was fantastic. Anthony Jeselnik was there. It was a great old time all the way around. But I've also had experience at a gay bar.
Okay. Yeah. No. Glory hole. We're going to have to come back to that at a later time. But just to finish what I was saying and be done, basically I realized that it wasn't girls buying me the drinks. It was a bunch of guys. Like they're all like, you know, because since I was in there with a group of people, and I would say out of our group, it was about equal. There was about 10, 12 of us, split right down the middle, equal amount of guys and girls in our group. But the thing was, is that all the girls that were in there, they were like, you know, more progressive, you could say, when it comes to the political spectrum.
Why are you dancing the subject?
I mean, I don't know how else to word it by just saying they were woke.
Yeah.
before woke was cool.
Yeah, they were
Right.
liberal-minded people.
But they weren't like ultra woke. They just were, overly accepting of others. But it wasn't like to an end where it's just ridiculous.
unlike Ben here, who hates everybody besides himself.
Oh, I love myself.
That's what I mean,
man.
yeah.
I'm better than everyone, and everyone knows it. Here at Smartly Uneducated, we're better than you, and we know it. Just like Globo Jim.
Globo Jim, there it
That
is.
is, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we are the best podcast in the world.
We are the greatest fucking
That's
podcast
right.
in the world. Hell yeah, dude. But anyways, I realized it was all guys buying me drinks. I did not drink a single one because I didn't really drink back
I
then.
love this vision of you having like 10 drinks in front of you.
I had 6 drinks.
And you're sitting there crossed arms looking around like these gays.
I was sitting there, I was just like, you should not be wearing those pants with that top. My God, dude. Dude. Gross. Anyway. Yay. So with that being said, I had like 6 drinks. We were only there for like 45 minutes. And I had like 6 drinks that were brought to me over that course of that time. We ended up leaving, right? Because I realized what was going on. And then realized it was a gay bar. And then everyone was like, I was like, do you guys not know that this is a gay bar? Like, I just realized this is a gay bar. This is Liberace gay. What is happening right now? Like, why are we even here? I thought we were whatever. Like, there's only 2 people in our group that are gay, but like, I get like we're just having fun going around, but this is not a fun spot for me. Like, let's go. Ended up being a total fun time, by the way.
Oh,
That bar,
usually
that
is.
bar was popping. But we ended up leaving. But when we left, pretty much, I came there the next 2 weekends. Like, I drove back
Alone.
alone. No one knew. I hitched a ride with a trucker. Luckily, he didn't kill me because I was too pretty. No, it's just too manly.
Too fucking masculine, dude.
He pulled out his penis, and I was like, and he was like,
Mine's
oh.
bigger.
Oh,
Nice cock,
what,
bro.
you
Mine's
want to
better.
dip wrestle? Mine's got a bicep. Like, let's go. He'll fucking wrap you up, dude. Like, gay. Anyways, it's okay. Yeah.
It is okay.
Anyways, moving on. Anyways, when I came back and visited, because they were partying, because they had a house and everything. They all shared a house, like all the people I was friends with.
All the gays.
No, well, no. But anyways, they were like, hey, like, we have an idea. We all want to get drunk, but we don't have, like, to save money. They're like, let's go to the bar and you'll be like our front piece. Like, pretty much saying, like, they want to put me in there and market me so they could get drinks. Anyways, I said there was only one way I would do that under one condition. And they're like, what? And I said, you know that racetrack that's over here in Austin? You pay it's like a couple $100 and you can go drive a real, like a real race car through actual legitimate laps and everything.
Okay.
I told them, I was like, I'll only do it if you guys make sure I get to do this. Like, that's all I want to do. Like, pool your money together. It was like 200, or I think it was like $100 and something for like 3 hours. So yeah, on Sunday before I left, I got to go to the racetrack every weekend, and
I like
Go
that.
drive
I
cars.
like how they.
it was a lot of fun.
I like how y'all scammed to get free drinks whenever y'all could have easily afforded the booze. It sounds like in order.
Oh,
for you
I got
to
them
go.
a lot of drinks, dude.
Yeah, but it sounds like
A lot.
the scam was to get free drinks, although y'all had $100 to your y'all's names a piece, and then y'all could just buy your own booze.
Oh no, the thing was that there's 12 people. They all chipped in for it was like $150 roughly after tax.
Yeah, they could have done that for alcohol too. Could have got like 3
No, it
bottles
was
of liquor, 4
expensive,
bottles
bro.
of liquor.
It was
Boom, pow.
expensive. Austin was expensive then.
Still is.
Well, you're also underage,
That is an issue.
so it's like you couldn't go.
I forgot about the underage part.
Yeah, so like going to the bar, they didn't ID you. Like, a lot of those bars don't ID you, man. They just don't. Especially if you're getting in with like a pretty dime piece leading the way.
Yep.
No one gives a fuck. They don't give a fuck.
And that leads us
Especially it's party town.
and that leads us to the truckers.
Yes, it does. Let's jump into the truckers. Let's leave the gay stories
Because
alone.
they also don't ID you.
Now, if you follow and subscribe to our channel after seeing that moment and hearing that story, and you spread our podcast around. I will share as a thank you. I will make a direct video solely for you of giving more gay stories of the times that I got to, basically get marketed to where we would get free drinks. I am not gay in any way. However,
I would love for this thing to go viral, and you're stuck having to send out like 1,000 messages.
well, I've noticed that it's funny because not every gay guy finds me attractive by any means, but I do attract gay guys, and I think it's just
It's that
it's
tight
more of-
ass, dude.
I do a lot of squats, dude. I don't know what you want from me. I do a lot of step ups. I do the works,
I one time had a piercing in my right ear, and I did not know that there was a gay ear. And,
You
and
did the gay ear,
I
did you?
I
Oh.
did. I had no idea there was a gay ear.
So the moment they pierced your ear,
They
a
gave me
little
pri-
penis tried to grow out of it.
No, they pierced my ear and gave me a gay pride flag and a lisp.
A list. I love how you had a criteria checklist. I'm here for it. Anyways, let's get into the topic at hand. Do you want to talk about your serial killer truckers? now?
Yeah. I mean, it
Okay.
is a very, very interesting and in-depth sort of talk. It's been going on since the 90s. There's been a few people who have been caught, but
Yeah.
the FBI and other three-lettered institutes are talking about how it has not stopped. In fact, it's only gotten worse. There is a map of where it is happening the most, and it is pretty rampant.
And
No highway is
would you
safe.
like to give the location of this?
America?
Well, I'm saying you said the map for it.
Yeah.
So it's over a certain state area.
No, it's over all of America.
Oh yeah, let's say, man,
But,
it's
like-
all the United States. I know at one point it was they noticed between these 4 states that it was that's where they were catching and picking up on things. But
I mean, it is the east.
it's widespread.
It is the east side of America that is hit the most, but then they drive across America as a OTR, over the road trucker, and they drop these bodies off and pick other passengers up, and so on and so forth as they go on throughout their time traveling. But it does show that people are being picked up most commonly in Florida, Michigan, New York, and other major hub spots for drop offs and deliveries.
Yeah, and I say I want us to go through we're gonna give you you guys an overview real quick of just kind of the everything real quick, just lightly touch, because we're gonna be digging into multiple spots, multiple top categories within this, and so on and so forth. But I will say I have my own personal experience because I was a trucker at one point for a good chunk of time. And I got to experience something really weird, or I witnessed something really weird at a truck stop in the middle of the fucking night. And it was after digging into this again, it's quite possible I saw something that may have been something along these lines,
Yeah.
mainly for the killing chambers aspect.
So there are,
And that we'll touch on that later.
Yeah. I was
but-
gonna say there are different types of deliveries, right? So different types of loads or truck beds, right? So you have your typical that's unlocked, and you have your ones that are locked, and then you have the ones that are sealed, right?
Yeah, you have.
You may be able to speak a little bit better on the types there.
Yeah,
are.
I can tell you. They're overall, it's the same. It's the same concept. It's just depending on what you're hauling, what the load is, things like that. What was done from the person who purchased it to where it's going. It's a layer. It's kind of like a categorized field, right? So it's like, oh, I'm just hauling groceries. Okay, well, you'll have that back thing shut with a lock on it or something. Or some companies, depending on who you haul for, they keep it sealed and they'll put an actual seal on it. That's sometimes the seal is just a yellow piece of plastic that goes around and clips in with a little tag number that's embedded on it, and that's what's on file. So if that seal is snapped, and the only way that will snap is if you open the handle, because the seal will break pretty easily if you just open the handle. Just the force of opening that big latch breaks that seal, and then they know it's been someone's tampered with it, and they'll either reject the load or they'll investigate it, but then you lose money on that load because the seal was broken.
Yep.
The other form of seal would be the aluminum ones. and those are very very common. I don't know what they're using now. It depends on who you're depending on who the person is, right? Like the company, they'll either use the aluminum seals or they'll use the plastic ones. The aluminum seals are definitely harder to break, mainly because when you go and you try to open that deal up, like don't get me wrong, that's how you break the seals anyways. You snap them by opening the door, or you can use little snips. Some people either or. But the thing is that those aluminum ones are harder to break because when they wrap around and they clip inside themselves, you can't unclip it. It's kind of like a zip tie. When you put the zip tie through, it can feed in one direction, but then when you try to pull that zip tie back apart, you can't because it's got nubs on it that catch, right?
Yeah, it looks like a bunch of balls in line, like a little metal chain.
Now, technically, on zip ties, you can press that little tab with a flathead screwdriver and pull it out. The aluminum seals don't have that. So once you put it through and it clicks, that's it.
It's similar to the ones that you have on
break
your.
It's
similar to the ones that you have on like a fan chain that you would pull down in that regard, right?
Yeah,
like
and you'll see ones on like rail cars, on lids of rail cars hauling grain and other stuff where they have like bottom gates that they open to dump the stuff out because they move grain through rail.
So why do they have them sealed? Like, what's the purpose of having a truck sealed for delivery?
For instance, so you have like no touch freight where when you pick it up, it's preloaded. They do all their things. So pretty much let's say the distribution center that loaded it, they put all the stuff in there, document it. Like, okay, we verified everything that's supposed to be in this load's in it. We're going to close it. We're going to seal it and show we did our end. It's been sealed.
Yeah.
And here's the seal number, blah, blah, blah. If they were to break it, there's no fixing that seal. So we know someone went in and tampered it. So if you get this load and the seal's broken, we didn't do that. We already confirmed, like documented on our side. We loaded everything that you required and requested. It's sealed. It's protected on, like, pretty much they're covering their fucking ass.
It's insurance, right?
But the thing is that if the seal, that's one of the main reasons, right? And it's also the sealing system also plays into another way of compartmentalizing everything to where you can monitor, like, so you'll have certain seals, like certain seal numbers. Let's say you're looking for a particular load that was sent out, and you're like, oh, where is it? Well, anytime that trailer that is got loaded up and then it got the seal put on the back, let's say it got taken to this distribution center from some trucker and it gets dropped there. Well, when it gets there, they use that seal number, they document it, and they check it in and say, hey, it's here, it's not broken. And it's also a way of tracking it as well. Like, there's numerous ways of doing it. The seals play a role in many different ways, right? That they can get applied. But with that being said, did that make sense? There's different types of different seals.
Yeah, there's certain numbers. It's all number coordinated. It's all documented. It's all up on the up and up for being delivery sake, right? So everything is marked. Everything is notarized. Everything is notated that this number CD 150 is going to this distribution center. If it is opened up, deny it, get your money back. We'll send it again.
Yeah, and then like some people would say, well, why? What about going off of the trailer unit number? Because all the trailers, those trailers,
numbered.
On the fifth wheel that they hook up to, they're all numbered and documented. But the seal is for more of protecting the assets type thing and protecting the trucker. So if the trucker picks up a load and he goes and inspects the load because he's supposed to inspect it before he just drives away, right? And he sees that seal's broken, he ain't taking it. He'll stop. That's what you're supposed to be like. Yo, that's a busted seal. This is supposed to be no touch freight, and that seal is supposed to be on here. And it's broken, so I'm not touching it. That tells me someone tampered with it.
Gotcha.
And then they'll come out and they'll have to fix it and then like make sure that everything's in there, and then they'll reseal it with a new seal, update the paperwork, and then update in the system. It used to be on a paper system. Now it's going all digital to where like they're using both. They have paper and digital now.
On that note, I'm starting to see yellow. I gotta take a little pee break.
Okay.
For those of you keeping score, this is number 1 this episode.
You want me to go ahead and start talking about the overview?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
I'll jump right into it. So let's talk about the overview of, let's just kind of glaze over that real quick before we get like crazy in depth. So basically the investigation into serial killer truckers, this all just kind of like uncovers a very, let's just say, complex threat within, just the trucking industry. The FBI's highway serial killing initiative, the FBI's Highway Serial Killings Initiative, launched in 2004, has linked over 750 murder victims and nearly 450 potential suspects to long haul truckers. This initiative was prompted by a disturbing pattern of bodies discovered along highways, often in remote locations where jurisdictional boundaries end, and which complicates investigations. Because it's going between state to state, which that is a complicated situation because of whose balls, whose court does that ball fall into? Like who is responsible for it? And then with it being split between the two, let's say someone discovered a person who is deceased or discarded on a roadside or whatever, who is a victim of this, and in a state away or two states away, but yet that person is actually from this state that's two states this direction, and the problem is that that person may have not been filed as a missing person, things like that. So whenever the police find that body and they do their investigation on that body, they're trying to figure out, oh, who is this person? And they're looking in the state database and they're like, okay, there's no one in here in the state database on this. All right, what about this state? And they'll like kind of do border states. But if the body of the victim, if the victim was originally from like some state that's like 4 states away, they're not going to come up with anything within that tri-state area, but the states that are bordering the state that he or she was found in. So it's like, oh, let's go nationwide and look for this person, like a missing person. Mm-hmm. Well, if the person's not a missing person, they're not going to come up. And if the person were to, let's say the person never had a driver's license, never went to the DMV, they never got their thumbprints put on file, let's say they never donated blood, because there's plenty of people who have never donated blood. So it's just like, how are we going to identify and find this person in the system? They had no identification, no nothing. It's like, oh, let's do the dentures. Well, the head's missing. Oh, can't do dental now, because if it was dental, well, yeah, they could probably find a record somewhere, because that would be public across the nation. But so it gets really complicated, and then with jurisdiction issues, because and then some states are behind on the curve when it comes to being on a in-depth digital system that interconnects everyone together like we have now. Not everyone's up to speed on that, so there's like a disconnect between each state, so it's causing all these complications into solving these crimes that are happening of murder and missing persons and all that bullshit. Sorry, I was talking about I had just gotten done talking about the murder victims and 450 suspects, and then talking about how the jurisdiction ends the boundaries, and I was just kind of giving a little bit more in-depth explanation on.
Yeah, good. I did just briefly mention it at the top of the topic. It comes down to people who are homeless or drifters, just not having any sort of identification, not knowing who they are. Right.
Here's the key findings on this. So just the key findings overall on this investigation is that the victim profile. So the majority of these victims were women who were involved in sex trafficking.
Who are being sex trafficked, right?
Yeah, they were being sex trafficked. These women are obviously vulnerable due to their transient lifestyles and the fact that they are often disconnected from their families, which makes it less for a disappearance to be reported. Mm-hmm. So like I mentioned earlier, there's missing person reports aren't being filed on these people. So it's one of those weird situations where it gets complicated. So solving these types of crimes, there's a lot of work to be done investigatively in order to even connect these dots and bring it all together. And then that's getting other people to play ball, which also requires updating current methods of how our system works, mm-hmm. that interconnect all the states together. So it gets complicated.
You got a bunch of Jane Does, right?
Yeah, and then the suspect profile is basically long-haul truckers, and it's really just due to the fact that they literally have access to anywhere you go, because they literally travel. They have a mobile home that they live in, which mm-hmm. is their cab of their truck. It's a sleeper, so they literally are on the go constantly. So they are one of the larger end of the suspects of this is long-haul truckers. OTR guys. And because some travel across multiple states in a single day.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll go from Texas
Yeah.
to Florida in one day and stop.
Bitch, you ain't driving
twice.
across all of Texas from one point to the end point in one fucking. I mean, you could do it in one day.
Yeah, you go
for
across
sure.
the Panhandle.
But you're not going across multiple. You're gonna make it just across into like Oklahoma or to Louisiana or whatever, or New Mexico, depending on where you're starting from. And it's just like, oh, we found a body here. We think it's a long haul trucker. Everyone just search the vicinity, okay? Around what state borders Texas? Let's all figure that out. We'll narrow it down pretty quick, because he ain't gonna. I mean, Texas is also fucking huge.
I mean,
so yeah. So I was just making a joke about how large Texas is.
I mean,
it's a large area.
it would be really difficult to do that because I mean, you have Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, all these different
Shit,
places.
man,
There can be 10,000 truck drivers going through any of these locations at any given time.
You get into Arkansas, you're gone, bro.
Yeah, brother.
You disappear in those fucking mountains, dude.
Mhm.
You could easily disappear in that bitch, and hide out. Now, granted, they're in a truck, but if they were to be like, oh, I know the heat's on me, I'm gonna bail out. You know,
Dump the bed and dump the truck and
yeah, as long as he's not being expected, and since they're looking in the truckers, and if it shows that a trucker just went MIA,
yeah.
I would give him away. You know what I mean? Anyways, let's move on. So, one of the investigated challenges within this whole situation is basically the nature of both the victims and the suspects.
Have a very transient lifestyle, right?
Yeah, and then they have it creates like huge hurdles just because of who the suspect is and who the victims are. And don't get me wrong. I know we said the victims were mainly female. There are other victims out there. It's not saying that they're only strictly female. There are children too.
Mm-hmm.
Children, young girls, young boys, and even men, like just grown men, are victims as well. Because some of these people, it's not about the sex trafficking, just about doing the deed.
It's about killing.
The killing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what they're into. Like that's what that's what they want. That's what gets them off. So there was that. But there's that situation with the investigative challenges, and then lastly is the role of VICAP. So what VICAP is FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program. And VICAP is crucial in these investigations because VICAP analysts compile detailed timelines from various records to track suspects, movements, and identify patterns. So the database, the fact that they started that and started creating that database, it made it to where that like legitimately helped, local law enforcement agencies across across states, to where they could take, if they had narratives where they found a person or something that in these lines, there was a database that was literally set for comparing notes with other cases similar to this, that where they found a person on the side of the road, or a body part, like, and it's all near major highways, and stuff like that. There was parameters to fit it in there, but if there was anything that would push the direction towards, hey, there might be something more to this database now exists to where you can now compare notes and you can get information of other, across the board of the entire nation. So that has helped a lot. But at the same time, like we stated before, there's a lot of fucking hurdles still. They may have a database, but just finding someone who's deceased or a piece of a limb doesn't give you a whole lot of answers most of the time. It's just a limb. Like, there's no other evidence of anything anywhere else.
Yeah.
So, even if you go look at the database, it's like, well, this doesn't help me over here because there's no other information. I have no other things collected.
So a lot of these cases that VICAP has come across, that these bodies are not just sort of killed, thrown. They are tortured and like, brutalized and torn to pieces and strewn across America. Like you'll find a hand in Oregon and a leg in Oklahoma of the same body, and then you have to track the trucks to see the routes these trucks are going on, and if you have 100 trucks doing the same route in a week, then kind of hard to narrow it down to which one's done it.
Yep.
So they're coming up with a huge complication of mandating resources to the proper locations.
Yep.
And as we mentioned earlier, and for the third time I'll mention now, everyone's pointing fingers at one another, saying we're going to handle this.
We're gonna handle
We
it.
don't need
we
you to
got
take
this.
this.
No,
We're going to
baby.
handle this, which comes into play a little later on in our thought and our like outcome of what we think is kind of happening, or our speculation, if you will.
Yeah. No, 100%. And one of the I know we had said that the critical insights with having VICAP being a thing and them doing what they did and starting that program or movement with for this resource. It's one of those one of the things that came out of it was a high profile case, which is like literally the most notorious or well known out of all of the serial killers who were truckers.
Yeah.
And that is the notorious case of Robert Ben Rhodes. So we're gonna get into him a little bit later, but just to kind of give you a little idea of why he's such a high profile case, is that he was known as the truck stop killer, and he is serving a life sentence for multiple murders, including the brutal killing of a 14-year-old Regina Walters. And I know that normally we make jokes about shit in on the podcast, but this topic is not a joking topic.
Pretty fucking.
It's
Pretty
sick. It's
serious.
sadistic. It's fucked up. But I mean, we talk about this stuff because this is. I think people should be more aware of this. I don't think people. I think the general populace. This isn't talked about enough.
No,
this whole
absolutely
thing.
not. Absolutely not.
And I'm glad that you brought it up to me last week because I had already known about serial killers who were truckers and stuff, but I had not been following anything in current times, like right now.
Mhm.
And last time I even like read anything about a serial killer trucker or anything of that nature, 10 years ago almost.
Yeah, like
It's
I think
been a while.
06 was the most recent case and article about any sort of truck driver murder or killing or anything of that nature where that was malicious in intent.
Yeah.
The fact that the FBI recently came out and said, hey, there's probably 450 to 500 different truckers out there doing it right now is very concerning.
Yeah. So, real quick, just to touch on it again, just to keep going, because another high profile case was that involves Timothy Vafides. I think that's how you say his name,
Vafedez.
or something like that. He is known as the vampire trucker.
Mm-hmm.
He would basically abduct women and he would keep them as sex slaves in his truck. And he's not, and the thing is, he hasn't been linked to any murders. That's the weird part. He hasn't been linked to them. Doesn't mean he hasn't done them.
Correct.
Because, yeah, I was doing some reading on Timothy, and it's really weird. Like, yeah, he admitted to the sex slave thing. They caught him. Right? But when it came to anything previous or prior to the women he was caught doing, there was only one or two people that he couldn't get out of not acknowledging that he kept them as a sex slave, who weren't a sex slave when he was caught. And at that point, nothing was relevant because he wouldn't talk. And his lawyers that he had were like shutting that down. And that's another fucked up thing, is that I understand the whole concept of like, yeah, you're supposed to have representation, in court. But my personal thoughts on it are, if you get caught red-handed doing some heinous crime, like it's not some third party going, I think I saw Billy down the street, and then they go and grab Billy, but Billy's like, whoa,
I didn't
do this. And yeah, like you need a lawyer, right? Like you need to defend yourself, and you may be actually innocent. But when you catch someone fully red-handed,
yeah, they pulled him over and found a woman tied up. And
is that, do you already know about Timothy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So get caught blatantly red-handed. I don't believe people like that should be allowed any form of lawyer or representation. When it's blatant,
innocent until proven guilty.
No, at that point, you're guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, that's
so you
fair.
better start fucking proving it. But no, fuck that guy. Like when people of that nature, if you get caught in that caliber of a crime, and it's not even just blatant, it's just reality. Like there's no debate about whether or not this guy did or didn't do it. Yeah, he did. It's in front of us right now. We're looking at it. We just caught him trucking down, pretend like nothing was wrong down the road, and he's got a fucking poor ass woman literally tied up in the back that he was keeping as a sex slave. Like, no, they don't deserve representation. They deserve just to get put down. People should be just getting put down, and the fact that they keep them, it's because our judicial system's fucked up and the whole system's rigged to,
Make money
and keep them alive as cows in these prisons, because that's the whole point, is to get money.
Yeah.
No, people like that should be executed, like immediately within the first 30 days of the arrest. It's like, nope, all right, at the end of the month you're dead. No, that's what should happen. And they should bring back the fucking firing squad. A bullet's a lot cheaper than that fucking concoction of chemicals for it being humane.
Yeah.
Why the fuck are we making things humane for an inhumane person?
All you need is
fuck off.
a 22 LR right to the dome. Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah, keep it cheap. Just make 22. Just go and pop one in. Nice thing is no exit hole.
Yeah.
It'll just run around, turning scrambled eggs.
Or like in the...
you know what I'm talking about? Like,
no
you shoot a 22 in the head, dude. It bounces around.
Yeah.
Scrambled eggs, bro. Who doesn't love scrambled eggs?
Or just go get one of those cow killers from Old Country from No Man that's air-powered.
That's such a good movie, too.
Just right.
It's a good movie, too.
This silent killer.
Oh, yeah. Anyways,
It's a true story.
it is a true story. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Anyways, let's move on. So that's kind of like the overview of it.
And then,
I
of
mean-
course, they have preventative matters where people like
Right.
call if you see anything, and just improve background checks for
Well, this is
truckers
like
and-
more of like, this is, which is weird. They say we improve background checks for truckers. Background check's not going to catch that.
No, absolutely not.
So that is a waste. That is something I would tell you, because I can tell you firsthand. In order to become a truck driver, especially OTR stuff like that, the types of background checks that truck drivers go through compared to you as a regular driver, like you just drive a regular car, is so fucking extensive. What people don't understand, it's kind of like the whole concept of we need more stricter gun
laws,
background
yeah.
checks. That's not what's going to catch it. What catch the people who do bad things, they're doing it off the books. They're not doing it on the books. I don't get what's so hard about that concept. It's no different in that category. And the same with the trucker thing. Like, if you do something that gets you in trouble and you have a driver's license that has anything to do with like a felony, the worst, because you're held at a higher standard
Yes,
with a
you are.
CDL. So it's like, if you do anything that has that, it goes on your record and it's shared nationwide. Most of the background, pretty much every single fucking background check that's done for anyone who has a CDL, anyone, it is a nationwide. They do it for every fucking state. They'll literally go state by state and get a background check report on you up to the date that they started it. So all time in the past to today. And they'll run it. And if nothing was ever documented on you, well, it's not going to get any more thorough than that.
Well, I mean, what are they going to find? Are they going to find, Joe Schmo, he's a killer? The fuck? No, the more extensive background checks is kind of a joke thing that they're doing, in my opinion. It's like, he has a CDL, he has his license, he has all these things, all these credentials. His background's not going to show that he's a murderous fucking freak of nature. That's not what it's going to show.
No, it's
It's
not
going to show that
any
he has
of that.
speeding tickets, maybe an arrest for domestic abuse or something. But
But even if he had an arrest for domestic abuse and he's a truck driver,
that has nothing to do.
well no, that actually you get removed.
No way.
If you get charged on it. So if you get charged on a domestic abuse account, right, that's technically a felony. You can't have a felony of that nature and be allowed to operate a vehicle like a tank. That's a tank, essentially. They consider it as you have anger issues. Oh, yeah, no, that you can't get.
I didn't know that.
You can't get it. And now if anyone listening to this tries to tell me otherwise, bring the receipts, bitch. I was a truck driver for fucking almost 15 fucking years. Bring it. I will love to prove you wrong, because I know this firsthand, because one of the guys we worked with, he lost his job.
That's a Big 10-4, big buddy.
Yep. He lost his job due to getting into a spat with his girlfriend or wife, whatever the fuck she was. I don't know what
Partner, huh?
partner.
Partner.
And he did. Now, I was not this guy's friend. I just worked for the same company that he did.
He did bad things to her.
Yeah, he did bad things to her. No one knew about it until he got arrested at work, because
Yep.
they came up there to arrest him for domestic violence and abuse. And when that happened, that went on his record. That gave him a felony. He lost his job immediately.
I remember
because you cannot, you're not allowed to have a felony of any of that nature on you if you're a commercial driver.
I remember when the two of us were drivers, and some fella got arrested for pedophilia, for relations with a younger woman, and they immediately fired him and got rid of him. But then
They didn't.
But then they brought him back.
Yeah, so that's the fucked up part. Is so I'm gonna give a shout out to those cunts.
Oh, okay.
Good old Waste Connections. You have Waste Connections? They're the kind of people who employ people who are pedophiles. So fuck you, Waste Connections, you pieces of shit. No, I'll call them out. We were there. I didn't sign no fucking NDA. No, people like that, companies that embrace and try to help that behavior, like protect that, give that protection. Fuck you. And now that company's not an OTR company. That's local. That's all like you go to work, you park a truck at the same lot, go home, like you're staying in town.
I was simply going to say
fuck
that,
all that.
I'm sure there's plenty of companies out there that would look the other way to see these sort of things as well.
Yeah.
They see that you have a felony, but you are really good at your job. They're going to bring you back on anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And just so you know, I'm going to name drop Waste Connections again. I don't give a shit. What? And then, you know what? The reality is that, yeah, you kept employed someone who's a pedophile. He got caught red-handed. And they were protecting him. They were giving him a job still. It's like, fuck you. You want me to work with that piece of shit? Fuck you. No, I was very adamant at the time when that was happening because they were like, Groder, just go, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. I was like, I'm not standing next to some fucking chomo. Like, I'll murder his ass. Like, that is a hard line in the sand for me. It's like, no, fuck all that. And, so fuck you, Waste Connections. And they kept him employed for a while.
Yes,
I don't know if he still works there now, but I know whenever I left,
he was still there.
he still had a fucking job and he was guilty.
Yep.
And the only reason why he wasn't guilty is because he was doing the whole bullshit where he got a lawyer, even though he was caught red fucking handed.
Yep.
Oh yeah, fuck all that. And they're gonna be like, oh, that's slander. No, it's not. I was there. I lived it.
There was a news
present.
article.
Oh yeah, it was on the local news. So fuck you, Waste Connections. Anyone who has them as a service, complain about them. They're pieces of shit.
Anyway.
Sorry. I couldn't help it. That pissed me off then, and
it still pissed you off now. It sounds like.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on to the next part of the year.
Before we jump into the truckers who were caught, like Ben Rhodes and things like that, there is a book called Long Haul: Hunting the Highway Serial Killers by Frank Figliuzzi.
He's an Italian guy. His name's Frank Figliuzzi.
Yeah, and basically he was a detective. He worked for the FBI, and he basically he wrote this book to bring awareness about this situation, and pretty much it was like long haul. This book by Frank how do you say it again? How'd you do it?
Figliuzzi.
I don't know. It's weird. Figliuzzi.
You can call him Frankie.
Frankie. We'll just call him Frank. We'll just call him Frank. So Frank basically wrote this book to give a comprehensive look into the dark world of serial killers operating within the trucking industry. And and the book was literally just drawing from his 25-year career as an FBI special agent.
Yep.
And he details the FBI's efforts to track and capture these killers through the Highway Serial Killings Initiative, which is HSKI, Highway Serial Killings Initiative. And so the whole point and purpose of the book is just to reveal the extent of the violence perpetrated by long-haul truckers and the systematic challenges in capturing them.
And there's plenty of interviews with this guy. He's done podcasts, news for Fox, CNN, and MSN, you name it. He's been on all these major news channels. So if you want to go look up his book, you'll see plenty of videos with him talking distinctly of what he's experienced and his knowledge and everything.
Oh yeah. So, and then one of the thing was like in the book, he has a lot of themes, like the key things and the findings and themes that are within it is basically the nature of the crimes, profile of the killers, the investigative challenges, And then of course the notable cases. So like we already mentioned Ben Rhodes and Timothy, that Timothy guy. You know, there's several others
Yeah.
that they've caught. And then of course he has like interviews and firsthand accounts, what the role of HSKI is, and then of course Frank's personal experience, because he rode along with truckers and then also went undercover as a long haul trucker.
Yes, he did.
He literally went and was like, "God damn, I'm putting on my goddamn ball cap today, and I'm gonna get me in this rig, and I'm gonna hook up to a fifth wheel combo,
Yep.
and I'm gonna go get a trailer, and I'm gonna go run across America, and basically be undercover and try to catch these fuckers."
Interview, watch, talk, mingle in with them and everything. It's a very insightful little book. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I've read some summaries and synopsis about it. It's a very harrowing tale of him traveling across America as a driver and talking to all these other police officials and the stories that they have of how close they've gotten to catching people and just it truly is a very, very interesting book. It's probably going to end up being like a TV show or a movie here fairly soon, like a documentary based one.
Yeah, 100%. So with that being said, so let's talk about like truckers who were caught in this.
Mr. Truck Stop Killer. This guy is a fucking
Piece of
freak,
shit.
dude. He's a freak.
Oh yeah. So let's we're gonna talk about Ben Rhodes real quick because we're gonna get into the whole truckers that were caught, and then like we're gonna talk about VICAP, and then and then the last little tidbit is really just talking about basically killing chambers.
Yeah,
and that's an ongoing thing.
I also
right
want you
now.
to share your little story that you have that
Yep.
you personally experienced while driving those years that you were.
Yeah, I'll do that after we talk about the truckers that were caught.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that being said, oh my bad. Let me get back to the
I was
top.
wondering why he keeps doing that.
So this is talking about the case of of Robert Ben Rhodes, also known as the Truck Stop Killer.
Yeah, so this piece here is just going to go over pretty much who he is and what he's done and how they caught him and all the heinous things that he's done. We may not go over all of it, but
do you want to go ahead and paraphrase and just read through the report I wrote?
Yeah, sure.
Or read the first, like you can start with, because we already know the overview. They was linked to several murders and all that stuff, and he was a serial killer and he did horrible things. But let's kind of like really dig into him.
Of course,
and start from the beginning of his life.
So he was born on November 22nd, 1945 in Iowa. Not much is publicly known about his early life, but it is believed that he had a troubled upbringing. He served in the Marine Corps, but was dishonorably discharged. Before becoming a long-haul truck driver, he had multiple run-ins with the law for minor offenses. His career as a truck driver provided him with the opportunity to travel extensively and commit crimes undetected. His modus operandi, Rhodes exploited his job as a long-haul driver to carry out his crimes across multiple states. His method involved picking up hitchhikers or stranded motorists, often young women, whom he would then abduct, torture, sexually assault, and ultimately murder. He converted the sleeper cab of his truck into a mobile torture chamber equipped with restraints and torture devices. That shit right there is fucking wild. I couldn't imagine having my radiator blow, and then this guy's like, "Hey, I'll help you out." Knocks me over the head. I wake up in his cab.
Yeah,
probably naked and fucking restrained.
Yeah, it's
his worst case that he's most infamous for is whenever he picked up in the early 90s is when this happened. He picked up Ricky Lee Jones and his 14-year-old girlfriend Regina Walters.
Oh, and then also Regina Walters, the 14-year-old.
That's what I just said.
Oh, I thought you said Ricky Lee Jones.
Yeah, so Ricky Lee Jones and his girlfriend, 14-year-old Regina Walters.
My bad.
Were hitchhiking when they encountered Rhodes. Jones was killed almost immediately after their abduction, but Walters was kept alive for several weeks. So Walters is the young girl. During the time, Rhodes horrifically tortured her, and there are disturbing photographs of this young girl in the process. One particularly haunting image shows Walter with a terrifying expression, dressed in a black dress and heels. Then Rhodes forced her to wear. Walters.
Is that what's on this?
That's exactly right.
You want me to pull that up?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead. So there is a website all about this guy on a website called Ranker. I'm not sure what it is. I think this is a website ranking serial killer stories, which is
So this is
bizarre.
This is
in its own
Ben
right.
Rhodes, by the way.
Yeah.
This is the fucker right here. Sorry, keep going.
So yeah, this is a website dedicated to different serial killer stories. This is
So
the
this is
guy-
another picture
He
of
had
the
a
fuck.
nickname, Whips and Chains, because he was into some fucked up BDSM and shit like that. He would always carry around a briefcase with all his toys and torture devices. Yeah,
Yeah, they were on their honeymoon. It's something about like other people he's killed,
this
and then that's the 14-year-old,
yeah,
the poor
that's
girl.
Regina.
That's just a horrific.
And this is the photo that they were just referencing on the that you referenced in your research there. This photo here, he forced her to put the dress on. As you can see, she has a bloody nose, and he made her wear heels before he took a photo of her. And he would keep photos of all his victims in his cab with him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, it's all messed up, but yeah, I'm gonna move off of that now and be done with the images on that. 'Cause I don't want to go too graphic on there because it's you gotta watch what you put out there. I mean, we made the point. We made the point. You know what I mean?
mean, I have a hard time researching and looking up these murderers. I'm not much of a fan of true crime and brutal killings and murderers, but this sort of FBI 500 truck driver killers, it sort of hits home a little too close because America is founded by these truck drivers, right? America is run on truck drivers, and if they are a bunch of fucking murderer serial killers,
Yeah. Which they're not. And not all of them are.
of course, not all of them are. That would be
Yeah.
absurd.
Yeah, because like I just want to express like or say people who are listening to this don't just go, oh, it's a truck driver, they're just an evil piece of shit.
That's how I
dumb,
see
whatever.
it now.
I know, right? They're not all of them are. I mean, these are a small percentage overall. Like, because if you look at how many truck drivers there are in America, and then you look at the percentage of like, and then findings, right? They're saying that there's a network of serial killer truckers that is under the number of 1,000. That is like less than 1% of the trucking industry, of the employees
Yes.
in the trucking industry. You have you probably have a higher percentage within where you work in your career. Let's say you're a grocery store person. The odds of you coming across someone who's a murderer who works at your grocery store is higher than you running into a truck driver who's
Yeah.
a serial killer. The only thing that's different between the two is that the serial killers who are truck drivers have a much more advantageous position for getting away with it. That's
So,
the only difference.
I mean,
right?
with this guy in mind, with the modern era, I can see how in the 90s it would be a little bit easier to get away with it because you can be like, oh, I just lost my paperwork for my delivery. I'm running late. There's no need to look in the cab. I'm gonna skip past this way station. I can see how it'd be a little bit easier to get away with these sort of heinous acts or horrific crimes,
Yeah.
right? In today's society, it seems to me it'd be a little bit more difficult because they have GPS tracking in most of these cabs, and they have mandatory stops that you have to do in different way stations across America.
Sorry.
What is gripping my brain over the past few days of reading this article is how could in a modern era like this these drivers be getting away with it?
Well, they say that like one of the advantages is logbooks, right? They say they can pull the logbooks and see where these truckers are located.
Yeah.
Problem is, not all companies in the trucking industry are going to digital. There are some that still do. A lot of people still do paper books, and that's the problem because you can fudge the numbers.
Big time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I did it. I would never admit that, by any means, but it's easily done. It's very easily done. Just gonna throw that out there. And you can fudge what hours you were driving, the works, because some of these guys, like these truckers, they know the roadmap of America like the back of their hand.
Mhm.
Half of them don't even need a fucking GPS, like or even like a map. any form of paper map to get anywhere. They know it. They know the routes because they've been doing it for a long time. And it's like they know all the back roads too, where there are no weigh scales or DOT checkpoints, or where DOT would never poach up in any way because it's such a remote back road that there's nothing out there. And they know how to get in some rock road, dirt road, or hell, it could be a paved road, but it's some tiny little podunk in the middle of nowhere type thing. And so it's just like they can easily fudge numbers and say, "Oh, I was here on this time," because they don't have a reference. They can't go and go, "Oh, but you checked in how could you have been here if your logbook shows that we have here that you checked in through a, going across this state line at this, weigh scale and DOT checkpoint shows you were here at this time, so you're lying." Well, they can't catch them in that lie because there's no record of them going through it because they went around it.
Yeah.
And the thing is that there's no way for them to know if they are going around it because part of the problem is because there's no law against it or anything like that, where sometimes weigh scales close because maybe they're too full or whatever, or maybe it's you never know. Or sometimes they randomly close them for like an hour.
A holiday, lunch break.
Oh yeah,
understaffed.
So there wouldn't be, no one's having to stop at that weigh scale at that point, So it's just, especially if they jump, like for instance, let's say they go through one state. Here's a good example. They go through one state. They went around a weigh scale to get into that state. Never had to stop at it. They abduct somebody. Then they go around the weigh scale that exits that state, right? Make it through that state, and then they get to the next state on the other side of the end of the other state, and then go through the weigh scale there. Well, there's no trail of him now, because now if he gets pulled over or whatever at a later time after going to that scale, it's going to line up with his books that are fudged, and there would be no way of tracing him back into that state that was 2 states over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To say like to go with the line, sequence of a timeline. And
I wonder if they'll mandate, if the government or mandate on a federal level, that they will make all of these companies go to a electronic form of
they should
of
they should.
tracking. I wonder if that's how they're going to subjugate and find some of these individuals.
They should, because that would also hold the companies accountable. Because I've worked for companies that it doesn't matter if you have already driven the legal hours and it's illegal for you to drive past X amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're at that cap, I've worked for companies that said, if you don't go and keep driving and get it to there and drive that extra 6 hours today, then, or what the fuck ever the situation is, then you're going to lose your job.
Yep.
And they give you fear of losing your job, and you can't afford to just lose your job because you're providing for your family, things like that. I've been in that situation.
You got to pay your truck off. You got to buy fuel. And
yeah, I've been in that situation. I actually was in a situation once where I finally just had enough of it because I was driving illegal all the time because they were forcing me to with fear of losing my job. That I just was like, you know what, fuck this. And I just went right in there. Literally, I went above my boss and above my boss's boss to the head honcho at our main location. And I just was like, yeah, guess what? I'm going to sue you guys because you guys keep doing this. So it's either this stops or I'm going to go sue you because I have documentation of everything. And I'm tired of you forcing me to break the law. Because I literally made recordings of them telling me that basically I'm going to lose my job and forcing me to drive illegally. So it's like, and then they're like, oh, and then they all of a sudden were backpedaling. And they're like, well, we would never do that. What are you talking about? I'm like, fuck you. You were part of it because you're the one who told them to tell me to get my ass over there. Yep. So fuck you.
Well, that would definitely help mitigate some of the more illegal activities that they're going about doing. So I do hope that they federally mandate that in that regard, because if these 500 or 450 serial killers truck driving are simply just taking back roads to go around weigh stations whenever their route specifically says stop in Idaho, and they just go around that weigh station, that would probably help find these people.
Oh yeah. Well, it's already illegal to skip. It's already illegal to skip the weigh scales. Like if you're caught trying to go around the weigh scale, that's illegal. Like it's shit. Yeah. They'll stop you. Like if DOT can do whatever the fuck they want to a truck driver. if you hell, a state trooper can too, because state troopers now have the authority of DOT. So it's like if you get pulled over and you're caught skipping weigh scales, like sneaking around them, oh yeah, you're not driving anymore.
You're done.
They're taking you. You're getting taken out of that truck. That truck ain't moving. It's gonna stay there, literally stuck on the side of the road. And and there's a litany of things that come after that. But yeah, you're fucked. But the thing is, people are still getting away with it. Moving on. Another case of, I know we talked about the case of Regina Walters, the arrest and conviction of Rhodes. So his crime spree ended on April 1st, 1990. When he was arrested in Arizona. A state trooper discovered a woman in his truck who had been bound and tortured. This led to his arrest and subsequent investigation, which revealed the extent of his crimes. In 1994, so this is what I was saying earlier, these bitches shouldn't get the any form of representation when you're caught red fucking handed.
Correct.
So get this. In 1994, Rhodes was convicted of the murders of Walters and Jones. He later pleaded guilty to even additional murders just so he could avoid the death penalty. It's like, no. Lie to him. Say, yeah, we won't kill you. Just kidding. You don't have any rights, bitch.
Yeah, you've lost all rights.
When you're a human, I don't give a fuck. Everyone wants to sit here and harp on, oh, he's a human being. He should have rights. You don't know where he comes from. I don't give a fuck where he comes from. Everyone knows right from wrong. You see how society works. I don't care what your household was like, where you were abused and treated like shit, whatever the fuck ever that twisted your brain to put you in this place. It is common. You can literally look outside your fucking window as a young adult to being an adult and see how the world, like how society operates. And it is a common across the rule law that these types of things are bad and wrong, and you choose to do it anyways. You know it's wrong. That's why you're hiding it.
Yeah, if you kill, you are a criminal.
Yeah,
you should
like
be punished.
No, like the whole concept of we should like these are human beings and be empathetic towards horrific monsters. It's like no, I don't give a fuck I don't care if the person's special needs. If someone's special needs and like literally was born with a deformity, it doesn't fucking matter. If someone is that volatile and that dangerous, they should not exist.
Also, if they know what they're doing, and in this regard for this guy Rhodes, this monster, he knew what he was doing. He very well knew that he was finding these people, taking them in his truck, raping them, torturing them, dumping their bodies. He knew what he was doing. So the fact that he pleaded guilty to get a lesser sentence, and our judicial system said, sure, whatever, we'll just put you in jail, make license plates for the next 45, 50 years of your life, is asinine. I do agree that somebody of this caliber should have just been put out of the misery and taken out of society and out of the world as we know it. I have been looking for a document here that I misplaced while we were bullshitting around this morning.
Are you gonna go through it?
Yeah, so
I'm gonna go to the back. I'm gonna go take a pee while you're going through it. Okay?
Gotcha. I was gonna talk about the crime hotspots.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you wanted to hear that or not, but
I kind of do.
I can wait. I can wait.
Do you have other stuff to?
We can take a brief intermission.
All right,
we can take
brief intermission. We'll be right back.
All right. We're back. So
back, baby. Continue.
Before we left, the crime hotspots in the U.S. they include Riley.
Oh, what are you talking about, real quick? Just in case.
Where the drivers typically pick people up.
Oh yeah, the hotspots.
Yeah, the hotspots for these drivers to do crime with the driving. Is Riley, North Carolina, Nashville, Tennessee, Memphis, Little Rock, Arkansas, Oklahoma City, Amarillo, Texas, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Flagstaff, Arizona. The country has 1 million truck drivers with the largest age group between 45 to 54, with nearly 10% confessing to having daily drinks. Over 70% are white and 12% are just black. So with that in mind.
So which states were they again?
States, North Carolina.
Let me zoom in.
You can just look up serial killer truck driving map, and it'll.
Oh, it will.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry, keep going.
So, where was I? The route runs from Wilmington, North Carolina to Barstow, California, passing through Riley, Nashville, Memphis, Little Rock, Oklahoma City, Amarillo, Albuquerque, and Flagstaff. It is I-40. That is the highway that it goes on. That is where most of the bodies and people go missing. One case under investigation at the moment involves Delmas Colvin, who was arrested in 2004 after it was estimated he killed between 47 and 52 women, almost all of whom were sex workers. He claimed not to have kept count of his murders, but following his conviction for 7 of them, he is now held in Lebanon Correctional Institute in Ohio. Colvin, known as the Interstate Strangler, told investigators he wrapped the bodies in plastic sheeting and duct tape, but denied having sex with them. He admitted to enjoying the killing, a claim police believed due to his laughter during interviews as he recalled the murder. Here's a picture of his bed.
Yeah, I'm gonna change the thing so people can see this.
Gotcha. There's a picture of his cab. It looks like a padded room that you would put a insane person in, and
Yeah.
where he would keep the bodies bound up.
Am I good to switch over? I want to show everyone the map.
Yeah.
So this is the map of the serial killers. I know that the road map for it, showing all the big spots where this where they, where things are going on. I know that if we make a short out of this or a TikTok, people will have a hard time seeing it. So with that being said, I will make sure to minimize it out like that so people have a little bit easier to see it. So this is the entire United States. And like you can see here, there's massive hot spots all over. Like these are all, like it's insane how much there is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all major cities and, like, which means like, oh, it's everywhere. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Like,
it's major depots, right? Where the drivers will drop off their cargo and then pick up another cargo and continue on their route. I-40 is apparently the biggest hotspot in America for these drivers to pick up sex
Yeah.
workers and do their bidding as they will. Again, this was the most recent one in 2004. He was indicted in 2007, and he is now in prison.
Yeah.
With that in mind, that is pretty much just cutting through the middle of America, hitting some of the biggest states across the way.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't really know what else to say other than these drivers really need to be caught for what they're doing and held accountable.
Oh yeah. I do want to touch on Ben Rhodes real quick and kind of finish out that whole thing with him, like his whole background. So some of the complications that happened in the Ben Rhodes case, and I know this is an older case, right? So this was his killing spree came to an end in 1990, but the thing is that it was a different time back then too, of how things were done when it came to documentation. I'm not talking about on the cop side. I know that's changed a lot too since, but I'm talking about on like the commercial driving side of who could become a commercial driver with background checks, things like that. Like the fact that he has in his records, like his past of have domestic abuse and violence, which is what we were just talking about earlier.
Yep.
You can't have that if you have a felony like that. You can't get a CDL. It's not going to happen. They're going to say no because they translate it to, all right, you have anger problems. You have violence in your past where you were completely convicted of it. And pretty much like because these semis are basically giant tanks, man.
Yeah.
Like if I was in a full size Peterbilt right now and I was going down the highway weighing 85,500 pounds gross vehicle weight, right? And I decided that I was pissed off and I was mad at the world and I decided to just drive that thing through shit. I could literally pummel through litanies of vehicles. To be honest, like if as long as I'm not going 100 miles per hour, that would cause me to jackknife and flip and crash. If I drove, I could literally take this thing and drive it through, like let's say like a downtown Sparta, like you have this old square, like the square or something in your downtown where everyone has festivals and stuff. That bitch comes driving through and he's pissed off or whatever, and he decides to drive through it. he could literally keep driving and plowing through everything and not stop and still keep driving.
Yep.
Like these things are tanks. So it's like, that is why one of the main reasons, like, yeah, you have that now. They're not going to give you a CDL. You can't get one. You won't pass a background check. They'll say no.
It's a traveling fortress, right?
Yeah.
They're hard to stop, especially if you're being followed by the police. I remember I was driving down to Austin as well for a wedding right before COVID hit, and I was with Tina at the time, and we were driving, I don't know, it was like a Thursday afternoon, headed southbound, and there was a truck pummeling northbound. Just the highway was shut off northbound, and this truck was flying, and behind it was about 100 police cars following behind it. All their sirens on, all racing behind him as well. But they can't hit the truck. They can't do anything on that truck. They have to wait for it to run out of gas or crash.
Or
right?
they can do like spike strips, things like that. And that would take out the tires, and then it would probably either wreck or whatever.
Yeah.
And if they had a controlled road, like if they had like stopped vehicles from being on the road and got them off, and then had a controlled section way before he gets there.
Yeah.
Then yeah, like, 'cause you can't outrun a radio, man.
Yeah.
There's no outrunning a fucking radio.
I distinctly remember driving on that highway and be like, wow, northbound at this time of day, there's nobody there. There's not a soul on that side of the road for 25, 30 miles.
Mhm.
And then suddenly there was a high-speed chase with the 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
That was a freaky little thing to see. But
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that is how they would be able to stop it. Just chase it until they pop the tires or something of that sort. Because they're not pitting no fucking
No,
semi.
they're not. You ain't pitting a semi. It ain't gonna happen. If anything, you're just gonna get fucked up. Probably even attempting it.
So this article I have here talks more about like how these individuals would kill these children and other
Yeah,
prostitutes.
I
don't
was
know if you want to
I
go
was gonna
into-
get into that. I just was finishing up Ben Rhodes, and then I was gonna go ahead and share my. Well, actually, I'll share mine at the end with the killing chambers.
Yeah.
Because of what I witnessed. I don't know what it was. Exactly, but it kind of fits with the killing chambers thing.
Yeah.
Kind of. Anyways, yeah. Go
Well,
ahead.
that also goes into our little skeptical thought as well about how they can get away with having these quote unquote killing chambers in the back of their
Yep.
trucks as well.
Yeah.
Which we can also go into. I'm sure we will.
100%. Can I finish out Ben Rhodes' thing?
Please, yeah,
and
go
then
right
be
ahead,
done
yeah.
with it, and
Yeah.
then you can do your article. Some of the complications. So there is jurisdictional complications. So Rhodes, since it spanned multiple states, it was complicated to coordinate efforts and investigations to share the information across, right? To get everything. The mobile nature of Rhodes' profession allowed him to evade capture for years because he was constantly moving.
Yeah.
Like, he never went stagnant. He was everywhere. So it's like he never had a moment where he stayed in one spot, did a crime, and stayed in that spot after the crime. Like, it was on the go even when he was doing the crime. Like, it never hit a lull moment. So that caused a massive problem. And then, of course, there's the last one, which is just a massive delay with the reporting. So a lot of victims of Rhodes were hitchhikers or individuals involved in these transient type lifestyles, which it led to delays in reporting them missing because no one knew that the people who they did know or knew them did not consider reporting these people missing because they had this type of lifestyle where they're floating everywhere.
Yeah,
So it was like, oh, he's disappeared for 2 months before, no big deal.
You got Billy pulling up to the Flying J looking for Lot Lizard Samantha. Like, where's my regular Samantha at?
Yeah, damn, I'm not going to report nothing because, I can't say I was getting with a lot lizard. 'Cause that's
Yeah.
called prostitution, and
Yeah.
I'll get in trouble,
Yep.
Yeah, it's all fucked up.
But
VICAP played a massive role in the Ben Rhodes case, and
And
which
it-
is the violent criminal apprehension
and
program.
hopefully it'll play a bigger role in catching these other individuals on the road today.
Yeah, and how it was so useful was that VICAP had basically they compiled a bunch of detailed timelines from various records such as company logs, right? And where the company logs fell short because fudging numbers, things like that, they got him on gas station receipts.
No shit.
Yeah, because he still had to turn in his receipts for his fuel, which was a mistake of his part because even though he's fudging his books, Didn't matter. You can't fucking change the timestamps on receipts. And so they were going and cross-referencing, okay, we know we have the suspect. We have to prove it was him. We have to prove he's lying. Like, we have to really iron this down to where he can't, which would force him to confess, which is why he ended up admitting full guilt to everything, because they went, they used, VICAP provided this information. It got all this information, like gas station receipts, since they had a suspect. So they dug into him and like where he all got fuel, things like that, that were turned into the company. And so they went to those gas stations and got cross-reference. Hey, show me, we need the receipts from this purchase. And so they got those receipts and they compared it with what was documented, all that stuff. And then they pretty much got him anchored down. He couldn't like say, oh, I was here. No, bitch, you were here at this time getting fuel, and you didn't drive a 12-hour distance in 4 hours, like in a semi. Not possible. We know you didn't. Blah, blah, blah. So VICAP was very important about that. And obviously, they said, there is an impact from the whole Ben Rhodes case, because it changed, basically it had a massive impact on the approach of investigating the serial killings that were involving truck drivers. And, it kind of underscores the importance of interagency cooperation, data analysis, and the use of centralized databases like VICAP. Like, it is imperative to have these things. It also highlights the vulnerabilities faced by the people, by individuals in society, particularly those involved in hitchhiking and sex trafficking.
Yeah.
So that's it for Ben Rhodes. I'll let you go ahead and do your article.
I mean, it's mostly just talking about how these individuals would be killed. It's more of the gruesome side of it. I don't know if we really actually want to talk about it. Good grief. I don't know, man. It's just, some people are murderers and some people are psychopaths. So these psychopaths don't just capture somebody, strangle them, toss them out. These guys are, as we previously have stated many times, are like dismembering these bodies, wrapping them up in saran wrap, and then launching them on the side of the road, inside of like drainage ditches, and inside of sewer drains. This article here has a doctor who is a social worker, Cecilia Williamson, who talks to these sex trafficked prostitutes at these truck stops. It says truck stop and the street level prostitutes has its own culture, its own language, and its own processes. This was informed by Figluizzi in his book. This Dr. Cecilia Williamson emphasized the power imbalance favoring the truck drivers. So these truck drivers are paying these women, stating it's not a pleasant experience for a girl to put her face in the lap of a truck driver for 10 hours. However, the girls are often desperate for money, and they're under the control of a pimp, facing violence if they don't meet their targets, while addicting to drugs as well. So these women are desperate as it comes, and they fall victim to these horrible crimes. I do feel bad for these women. I do feel bad for the victims.
feel bad for all of them, everyone.
Yeah.
It's more than just the poor women that are, like anyone who's a victim of any of these killers, these horrible members of society. I feel for all of them. I feel horrible for all of them. It's because, like, I get people like to put emphasis on the sex trafficking. I'm a big proponent of anti-sex trafficking, bring awareness to it. Hell, we had an episode we did where we talked about that after watching that movie that came out. We went and saw it in theaters by
the
Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
Which I understand is a production, movie, but it's the real telling of what happened with that agent who went out of his way to expose these sex trafficking rings and things like Jeffrey Epstein's Island and the works, because he's the one who exposed other islands that were just like Jeffrey Epstein's. Just not Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, like, I get that people are going to take it as like, oh, these poor women. No, it's just poor fucking people. I mean, we have kids who are victims in this too. You have
absolutely
young boys, adult men, and these adult men are not bad men. of society. Some of these victims, like I know there was one guy, one of the people I came across. He's not in my report. I don't remember his name, but he was just one of. Now they didn't have enough evidence to label this truck driver as a serial killer, but they just labeled him as a murderer.
Yeah.
Right. Because he would not talk or anything after that. They still got him convicted because he pled guilty to that one particular murder, but when it came to a few other potentials that he may have been linked to, there wasn't enough evidence to get him on it. And even when they presented it as like an interrogation tactic to be like, yeah, and you're gonna confess to these basically, and he was like, don't know anything about those, and because he knew there was no connection, and he was a smug motherfucker too when he got caught. But the thing is that guy, like the gentleman who was murdered, he was like in his 30s or some shit. He ran, like, he was a big like contributor to like multiple different charities. Like he did a lot of his free time, his hobbies was helping and giving back to the community. Like,
So how did he get caught? Do you remember that part of the story?
yeah, he was doing I don't remember
Not
what
the murder, but the guy who got murdered. Like, why was he in the
oh
situation?
why was he in the situation? He was attacked from behind. Next is right next door to where a truck stop is, or wherever the guy who committed the crime, right, the murderer. Right next door to this truck stop was some type of like food storage place for like people in need of food, like it's like a food pantry,
Like a food bank, right?
yeah. And he volunteered there all the time. He ran a lot of I don't, he wasn't in charge of it, but he was a massive contributor. So he was there always volunteering and with like other people and stuff like that. And he was apparently there remotely late one night, and he was locking the place up, whatever, because he was asked to, because this is back in the late 90s or something. I think it was when it happened, it was like in the cusp of going into the year 2000. Like it was like 99.
Yeah.
And that truck driver just walked across and was there and came up behind him, like got him. Well, his back, like they said that his back was turned, like because the manner of how he died, they found out when they found his body, which he wasn't dismembered or anything like that, but they found his body and they said that what killed him was a fatal blow to the skull.
Yeah, blunt force trauma. Right?
Yeah, so this guy was, so his back was turned. After the full investigation at the end, basically they're like, okay, we know how he died. You didn't sit there and torture him. You just wanted to kill someone. So the fucked up thing was about the case was that when he was hit on the head, he didn't die right away. He basically I forgot how they worded it, but basically, long story short, he got hit in the back of the head, took him down, but he wasn't dead. He died later. Like, they say they're assuming he died within 24 hours of the blunt to the head, but that didn't stop the truck driver from doing horrible other things to him.
Taking him and
and doing other horrible acts. So it's just like that guy right there. But you have some adults in there that aren't part of the normal stereotype that fits the bill. You got outliers like that where you have someone that is a good member of society. Obviously, apparently from what we see on paper, from what I read, was a good man. And then this happens. And he was a victim of one of these murderers. So it's just like, I'm just expressing to say all this. So it's like, don't just lot it in with just, as long as you're not a sex trafficker, you're fine. As long as you're not a hitchhiker. No, if someone's a bad person and they want to intend harm on someone, they're just going to go do it. And it doesn't matter if it fits a particular bill. If they have the hunger for something of that nature.
Travel in groups, right?
Oh, yeah. It's all fucked up.
I mean, it makes me wonder how many of these drivers are carrying weapons on them to intimidate people, and how many of these bodies are just not being found. And so if any of these drivers are carrying a firearm on them, they can easily just make somebody do what they want to do, right? Just point the gun at them, say, get in the truck, shut the fuck up, we're going to do our thing. Then beat them over the head, tie them up, and now they're found themselves being picked up in Amarillo, waking up in Oregon or whatever.
Yeah, no shit. I want us to, so this is the last thing we're going to talk about, and then I'm going to share
Your little story.
what I got to witness
Yeah.
whenever I was a truck driver that happened, and I feel like it connects into this very well because of what I witnessed. I was younger at the time. I was a greenhorn. And in,
Rookie.
yeah, no shit. For people who don't know what greenhorn is, you just gave definition. I was a rookie. I was a probie. You know what I mean? I was fresh into being doing any type of OTR stuff. I had very little experience. So now doesn't mean I don't identify something that looks fucking odd, because I understand. Like, don't get me wrong, I grew up around truck drivers. My brother was a truck driver. I already knew a lot about the truck driving industry, a good chunk. But for me, doing it as an experience as a young adult, it's still a different reality. You're actually doing it, and now it's not like you're just around someone as a child who does it.
Yeah.
You're actually doing the job. It's a totally different game, and then you're fully immersed into the career, right? Like in the atmosphere of that job, which you weren't before when you were hearing about it. So it changes the game. I'm making sure to state that because some people mix that up because they think, oh, I knew someone who did this, so I know exactly what it's like. No, you don't. You don't know shit.
No.
Until you're doing it, it's totally different game. But yeah, so moving on from that, so the whole killing chambers and 18-wheelers, like the whole mobile torture chamber type concept. So I know we talked about Ben Rhodes, but the thing is that he transformed his sleeper cab of his truck into a mobile torture chamber.
Yeah.
He equipped his truck with handcuffs attached to the ceiling, chains, and various torture instruments, creating basically a dungeon in his sleeper cab. So
Yep.
if he was ever pulled over and a trucker, and a cop's talking to him, and he's got his sleeper cab, obviously it's all in one unit, right? And they're talking to him through the window, and he's got his door open. They're not going to see in there because there's also a curtain.
Yep.
And some of them actually have like a fake wall. Some people put up like temporary walls, it's not like a snap. I've seen them before.
Think like
on
a cubicle wall.
Yeah, a cubicle wall where it's like just instead of a door there, it's just a curtain in this one little spot, or no curtain at all, or something. So they're not going to see directly into the back and be able to see all that stuff, or anything like that. And then, he had it basically made like a dungeon in there. The other one is another serial killer, Bruce D. Mendenhall. He was one of the other people who were caught, and all that fun stuff.
Fun stuff, right? Yeah. So Bruce D. Mendenhall,
Yeah.
he used his truck as the killing chamber, where he turned the back of his, not necessarily his cab, but you can find different articles and things about him turning the truck bed, the fifth wheel, into a little torture chamber in the back.
Oh, you talking about the actual freight container?
Yeah.
Okay, so the trailer he was pulling, he had turned into a
Yes.
Deal.
Where he would have sexually tortured and murdered his victims. That seems to be
this is pretty recent. He was arrested in 2007.
This seems to be a pretty common occurrence with these drivers, that they rape these. Oh God, sorry YouTube for saying the R word so much, but they tend to sexually assault these individuals and then hold them captive until they're quote unquote done with them, then dump their bodies.
Yeah, and this was in 2007 that
Mendenhall
was captured. Yeah, that was 2007, man.
Yeah.
That's pretty. That was when I was 17 when that happened, dude. Like, damn. So and then the next person would be like Wayne Adam Ford as an example. He was known for brutal methods. Or is it blah blah blah? Yeah, his thing was that apparently he carried the body parts in his truck. Now, there's no talk of the killing, torture chambers or a killing chamber in here. Doesn't mean that he wasn't doing these heinous crimes within his unit, that he was operating. But he could have very well been doing it outside of his truck too.
Yeah.
You take him to a remote place, things like that. Yeah, it was messed up. So anyways, one of the things, so there's let's break down the mechanics of the killing chambers that they have at least documented in cases that have been real ones.
I
Like,
hate this shit,
not the
dude.
whole suspected or theorized, because there's a few theorized that are like they believe are real, which is the actual container itself, the trailer they're pulling,
Yeah.
that they've modified it and put up like a false wall in it to like keep it to where it's got the optic of illusion. When you open it, it's actually shy 5 foot.
Yep.
But you don't realize it because it's a full length trailer. So when you step into the back, you're just like, oh, there's the back, the front of it way at the end, empty trailer or something. But really, that's actually a false wall that looks like the front end of the
Yeah.
truck.
It could have pallets in the way as well. And
Just a stack of pallets and then the false walls behind it to just make it look like, hey, look, you don't even have to move these pallets because you can see the wall. There's nothing behind it. It's
Yeah.
flush up against it. It's all fucked up. But so the mechanics of these killing chambers. So these trucks they meticulously designed these things to facilitate prolonged torture and murder while minimizing the risk of detection. So like the sleeper cabs of 18-wheelers, provided a very secluded space where these people could hold and torture victims without attracting attention. They would consider, have like restraints in them, handcuffs, chains, variety of different instruments, even fish hooks. What the fuck?
yeah.
Things like that. And then of course the fact that they can drive them anywhere they want because it's part of their truck. It's built inside of
That's
it, so
the
that it's
freakiest
mobile.
part.
So with that being said, that's just telling that it's basically we're end up touching on stuff we've already said. But one of the torture chamber narratives or concepts that's out there that they're theorizing about is, I don't want to call it a theory because I don't consider it a theory, mainly because I've seen some things. No, I'm not talking about where I saw a serial killer. I'm talking about I've seen trailers being multi-purposed. Like if they're not hauling something, if they own their own trailer,
Yes.
their own freight container trailer, and when they're not hauling freight, let's say they're doing another small job or something, and they're still going to use their trailer. They'll I can see it being so real, it's not even funny. Mainly because you can modify, like the false wall concept, things like that. But one of the big theories is that they think that there's a network of that serial killers that work together. That's from one of the things I read about, and where there's some serial killers who probably are working together and create this network across certain areas or whatever it is. Either it's the whole United States or maybe these select states, whatever it is, where they're basically that's why it's so hard to catch them, because they're working with other people, because the world's so interconnected now.
So,
And it's they're working with other killers, and then on top of that, like the theory goes, or one of the theories of a torture of a killing chamber is a freight container that they modify where inside is literally just the entire trailer. Inside behind those metal doors is just they pad the walls down, things like that, to where like it muffles sound and shit. Because when those things are hollow, you bang on the side, you're gonna hear that shit loud as day. But they'll put shit and line the walls in the inside and like make it completely soundproof and to where it muffles everything, and then they set it up for their killing and torture. That theory, there's a few people that have that theory who are investigators now who have put out PSAs of like, you need to be aware of this. Like, if you're someone who has this type of lifestyle and you travel a lot and you float around these areas and stuff like that, this is something that's happening. You are perfect. You are a prime candidate to be a victim. Even though the odds are probably lower, right? Because of the percentage to the ratio of who's actually a murderer and who's not. It's still something that it's like alarming, and it's like they're trying to be like, make it public to where it's like, pay the fuck attention, be aware, know this information because it might save your life, type thing.
Do you know if the cab of these trucks are considered a private domicile where they have to have a warrant to search?
No, it's not private at that point.
Gotcha.
Because so I know I've heard that argument before where they're like, no, it's like castle law because I live in this thing, I own the truck. It's like, Bro, you gave away all rights to your domicile the moment you put a DOT number on the side.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
DOT, they come in there and nope, they'll tear through that whole motherfucker. They
Yeah.
don't care.
They'll search it no matter what the situation
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, they're gonna search whatever because since it has a commercial number, it's a commercial vehicle, and it's licensed that way, it's or docked that way, has those fancy little DOT numbers on the side. You basically just sign. You're. It's the equivalent of me going to the local police department for my home and going, hey, here's a copy of my front door.
Here's my key.
Here's my key.
Yeah.
You know, which gives them a right to come in there anytime they fucking want.
Here's the deed to my house.
So it's like, no, they're not. They don't have a right. Now, don't get me wrong. If there's no probable cause whatsoever, let's say you're parked up sleeping somewhere, and then DOT comes over, even though let's say you're parked, isolated away, right? You're not driving, the truck's completely shut off, whatever, off duty type concept. You could actually fight them on that one. You could be like, no, go get a warrant if you're going to search it because it's not being used. And I'm not in the middle of a transit. Like I'm not even in an in-between spot. I've decided to say, fuck that load. I'm not taking it. I'm not working. It's, it's hunkered down.
Gotcha.
It's not being run. It's not being operated. You can't do shit with it. It's parked in a place that's legal to park it. You can't fucking touch it.
So,
now that's an area where they could be like, no, you have to produce a warrant. You can't just search it because you want.
let's talk about the potential transformation of the cargo container and how that would implicate other industries and companies to be subjugated toward a killing mobile device. Because if somebody is making a serialized number to put on these vehicles to be transferred across America, to be weighed and to be tampered with and all these things, then there has to be some sort of regulated government bodied system to say, yeah, this truck number 1545 is good to go past the weigh station, even though it has skipped every single one of them.
Well, as long as he's not over the legal limit.
Yeah.
The weighted legal limit, because you have to take into account, like, let's say you're off by a couple 100 pounds, which would be a person.
Yes, it would.
Right? You can easily be like, well, I wasn't fueled up then. I went and got fuel. They'll go and weigh on the scale. Like, it adds up because they can show a receipt for getting fuel too. Right? And the thing is that, like, that adds up because some of these trucks are set up where you have dual 150-gallon diesel fuel tanks on them. And if if one's empty and the other one's at like a quarter full, and then they fill it up, that's a few 100 pounds of fuel. Like, that's not, oh, it's 10-pound difference. No, that's a couple 100 pounds or 300 pounds or 400 pounds, depending on the fuel tank setup and how they have it arranged and everything like that. So it's, you could get away with, if you were to pull up on a weigh scale, right? Let's say you got some fuel, but you only filled up one of your tanks and you have a person in the back now. That would balance out.
That's that 200 pounds or 100 pounds.
It's just the fuel. It's just the fuel.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, where's your receipt? Oh, I have an on site that I can drop at for our locations where I just get fuel there. They don't have to produce a receipt then.
Yeah, free fuel.
Oh yeah, like it's there's so many workarounds on that shit that you could play the card on, and there's no way. And then of course, if someone were to take that and be like, oh, we got to crack down on that, they already do. You know how hard it is to fudge numbers now? It is still hard to fudge numbers. I mean, depending on what we're talking about, if it's just a logbook and it's not digital, yeah, you could easily fudge that. But when it comes to going across weigh scales and maintaining weights, yeah, you could get there's workarounds.
Gotcha.
Now, not for like thousands of pounds of difference, but a couple 100 pounds? Oh yeah. Because the fuel tank thing's a prime fucking example. And then they're gonna be like, oh, well, if you filled up, how come you're missing your other fuel tank now? You know what they can say? Like, let's say they had a fuel tank, but then they took the fuel tank off and just discarded it. Like, let's say something like that or some shit. You can say, oh, hey, well, no, that fuel tank had a problem. Ran into it about 100 miles ago, and I had to completely cut it off. Or, like, the tank may be mounted, but it's empty on fuel. And then in that, there's so many ways you could spin it and get away with that.
Because I mean,
and get past the weigh scale with the weight.
my thought here is that there is a driver just driving a vehicle, and they may not know what the load is, and in the back is somebody who has paid for their cargo to be transit across America, and as they do, they park it at night at, say, like a Flying J or a truck stop, and they pick up somebody and they pull them into the back of the truck, and now the driver doesn't know that there's an extra 150 pounds or whatever in the back, and then this individual is able to do what they want back there and discard the body at different truck stops and different spots along the way.
Yep.
That's where my brain goes, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be the driver in the cab. They could easily have a system, if you will, of drop points and different companies that are in on it to say, yeah, we have, I don't know, we're transporting helium in a secured truck that mustn't be tampered with, so you cannot go inside of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing you can really do. I mean, about that.
That shit's wild.
Yeah. No, it's fucking. The thing is that there's so many. Like, it is all insane. But then when you really start like how what you were just talking about, and you start going into like, well, this or that, you know, and like kind of like peeling it back a little bit to like kind of talk about like how that works, or how can you get around it, how can they get away with it, blah blah blah. It's one of those things where there's a lot of areas like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Like a lot. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not trying to laugh about it.
There's a lot of areas that are like that. A lot of them like that. What do you mean there's a lot of areas like that?
What do you mean?
What?
What?
That's what you just said.
Yeah, there's a lot of I'm talking about the narrative, what you're talking about. There's a lot of areas where you could go look at X, Y, and Z of like, you know, like how I just broke down the diesel tanks.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. Like,
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, like there's a bunch of little areas.
We have less air in the tires. We have no
I don't wanna
cargo in the
say
back.
air, but, you know, well, yeah, the cargo thing. And then like how you were saying, like people, you know, someone wanted this and you park it at a Flying J type concept, right?
Yeah.
Then the fucked up thing about that is that you could, if it's a sealed load, it's a no-touch freight load.
Yes.
So when you pick it up and it's sealed, and you get pulled over at a weigh scale or a DOT checkpoint or anything like that, they're not going to open it if they don't have to, because that creates problems for them, or a lot more work for them. They don't want that. They rather create more work for you. So it's like if there's one like a no-touch freight and everything's lined out squeaky clean on the numbers and all that stuff, and they can tell no one's ever fucked with it, whatever. They're not gonna look at it back. They're just gonna inspect the exterior of the trailer that they're you know, the load that they're pulling, and they'll inspect the truck. They'll climb all through your fucking cab.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to what's in there, they ain't gonna open that just willy-nilly. I've seen them do it before, but that was only because they found a lot of problems, and then they noticed there was a discrepancy in some of the unit numbers. So they questioned it. So they're like, oh, let's open it, when really it's just more of someone fudged up putting in the unit number of the trailer that they grabbed.
Just a little fat finger, right?
Yeah, something like that. But for the most part, like if it's a no-touch freight, no one's gonna open that.
Because since the FBI is talking about there is so many new truck driver murderers out there, and all of these individuals have been caught already using the cab as the murder location, the murder tank, if you will, whatever you want to call it. People learn from other people's mistakes, right? So if they can find another way to get away with a crime, they're going to learn, make it smarter, make it better, find different ways, pay more money to be avoided. My immediate thought is these are rich people who are potentially paying off a company or owning the company, and then they can just do whatever they want. So I wonder how many of these trucks are owned by very wealthy individuals who then use the truck as a cover for trafficking humans and child trafficking and organ harvesting, and not to harp on Alex Jones, but like the the blood transfusion shit that they all
Well,
these,
Alex Jones has also brought up the whole truck driving.
He has, I know,
And he was
yeah.
saying that one of the ways they're doing it is by
adrenochrome. That's the word I'm looking
yeah.
for.
He was
adrenochrome.
saying that there was he said in the past, he said a long time ago, it was the whole narrative and concept of they're utilizing freight containers, like
Mhm.
trailers, and they'll like literally load them up, and it's an interconnected network, so you have to have some people on the inside. So whoever's at whatever location that has that trailer, they'll come in and drop it, and then the person who's there at that distribution center will then add it into the books of something they received and falsify that log,
Mhm.
and then it blends right in. If no one's looking at that, they're looking at just the truck driver. They're just looking at that. They're not looking
Correct.
at that concept, right? They would have to find a truck full of children or sex slaves or people being sex trafficked, in order for that to even open the door. And they haven't found one in America doing the normal trucking spots. Now, they've done it with illegals. They found illegals in there
Yes, they
crossing state
have.
lines. That's different. But if you're an interstate trucker, you're not.
You don't cross
You
boundaries.
don't cross nation. The borders of the countries. They're not going to even think about that. You know what I mean? Like it. They have to have a microscope needs to be put on it where they found something in order to open that door to go. Okay, there's got to be a connection. Then someone's got to be on the inside for that to get validated.
Yeah.
Something got fudged, or that company, or not even the company, the distribution center you picked it up from. Someone's either in on it there or someone who dropped it there, whatever the case is, however the paper trail is set up. So it's like, that's the only way it would be found out.
That's where my brain goes. I imagine it would go something along the lines of a driver picks up a freight. It weighs 40,000 pounds. And they take it to a yard to then drop it off, and they pick up another truck that weighs 40,000 pounds, the exact one.
Mhm.
And they just transfer it out. Maybe with the driver knowing,
Or
maybe,
make a duplicate.
exactly without the driver knowing, or with the driver knowing, and just pay him $10,000 or
Yeah.
whatever.
And before anyone who is listening at this point tries to say, well, how would they do that with like the manufacturer? Like how you have like stuff that's like basically embedded into the steel, like stamped into the steel,
Yeah.
Engraved into it. That's so easy to fabricate.
I mean, yeah, it's made
like,
somewhere, right?
Yeah, you could do it if you're good at welding and you're good at with tools.
Metal fabrication.
Yeah, with fabricating, you could create another one that looks just like it with the
Absolutely.
same numbers, and you could duplicate it, and it would pass because all they're checking is the numbers.
I mean, they do it with guns, don't they? They do it with gun cloning. So I know
Dirty guns.
Yeah, for instance, Beretta and then Taurus, those are made in the same exact factory using the same exact stamps and molds. They're just named different. They just changed the name on them.
Yep.
And so
One's a cheaper brand, supposedly,
Yeah.
in comparison to the other, but it's still made in the same fucking place.
So who's to say that they're not just making a double freight and they're like, oh, this is a blemished one. Let's sell it on the market somewhere for somebody to build a house out of it, and that person buys it, and then they just take it, fill it with children or a padded room with a torture chamber.
We're not talking about guns. The guns, they can't fit a torture chamber inside. He was just using that as an example before he switched
It's
back.
an analogy, right? Yeah. So who's to say they're not taking that extra cargo truck and then
Well, here, I think it'd be appropriate for me to share my story then because
Yeah,
it
it's
plays
fair.
into this,
Absolutely.
and then we'll be done with
Yeah.
this episode. So, when I was younger, I got to whenever I was greenhorn into this stuff, I was at a truck stop and I was hauling a load. I don't even remember where I was hauling it to be honest. I don't even remember. It's been a while, but I was at this truck stop, and I want to say it was a TA, a Travel America. It was a well-lit truck stop. It wasn't like off in the boonies. Like, don't get me wrong, we were in the not in the Metroplex, like, because this was up in the mountains. Like, I had driven through Colorado, and I was in, I was technically in New Mexico, but I was still in the mountains, though, because the mountains go right down in there. And I was at this truck stop that was like, at the base of the mountains that kind of goes up. It was like you had already gone up elevation at this point, but it wasn't like a hard go up where you're going over like the peak itself.
Kind of like Albuquerque.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, no, that's a good way of putting it. So basically, I was sitting there, and the way this parking lot was set up, I parked out of the way of all the fuel pumps just because I didn't want to be in anyone's way. And I parked at the back, and the parking lot, like, imagine a square, but the parking lot wasn't a square shape. It was off angled. So like where you would have like, if I parked in the corner facing this direction, and so here's the square, right? The square is like this.
You should pull up MS Paint and draw it for everybody real quick.
Oh, okay, fine. That would make more sense. But anyways, basically I was parked in the corner, but I was backed in to the corner, and then the side of the parking lot went away from me. Instead of it being a 90-degree angle to make a square, it went at an angle, like a 45-degree angle this way. So it almost was making like a octagon, hexagon type shape of a parking lot, right? On one or two corners met. So it was like two off-angled things. It wasn't a hard 90.
Oh, interesting.
Which is common in some of these parking lots. You get in some of these big trucking lots, yeah, they're not gonna all be perfect squares or anything like that. But I was parked there, but this truck was parked. So in front of my cab's like this. This truck was parked like this at an angle.
Was the cab facing your cab?
Yeah. So I could see the front corner of his headlight. So I could see his front end of his truck at an angle, but I could still see the side of it.
Gotcha.
And he was the first one parked there on that row. And then there was numerous rows spaced in front of me as well, and with just lines written on the ground, or painted on the ground. And it's like 2:00 in the morning. And at the time I smoked cigarettes in this little stint of time. And I got up from, where I was in my bed, and I went and I was sitting in the driver's seat, and I had my curtain shut, but I was in an older truck. So I had the little triangle vent windows on my cab, and I turned that open, and then I turned my truck was running.
Yeah.
And I turned my AC on, and it was just like blowing the smoke out. I just turned the vent so I would keep my cigarette there, so that way the smoke wouldn't come in the cab.
Absolutely.
And I'm sitting there, and then something caught my eye because I'm having to lean towards this little window, so because I'm trying to keep all the smoke right there, and I noticed it just caught my attention. I saw at the back of this cab, or not the cab, but the trailer itself. It was a freight container.
Okay.
I saw the door. I just saw it open. Like, and what caught my eye is that it was a reflection, because when the hinges turned and moved, I saw the door, like the handle of the door. Like I could, because the door, when you opened up those massive doors,
Yeah.
I could see it, and I saw it open, and I was just like, I was looking, I was like, oh, what is going on here? And then I saw a pair of boots come down, because you can see under the truck.
What the fuck? Are you talking like cowboy boots? What type?
I would say like muck boots. That's what I
Whoa.
thought they were. To my knowledge, like looking back, it was like he's wearing like rubberized muck boots, like the ones that come up to your knees.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see above like his calf level.
Okay.
And it's still a distance. So like from where I was to seeing his feet, I would say half a football field, 50 yards.
So yeah, you can still see what's going on.
That was roughly 50
Yeah,
yards.
that's not far at all.
From the angle I was.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was dark, and it's a well-lit parking lot, but where we were, the lamppost wasn't in between us. It was on the other side of my truck, So it was illuminating light, but the only reason I could see his feet, that's why I said the reflection that caught my eye, is because the light reflected off the door
Yeah.
when it got to being parallel with the rest
Caught
of
your
the truck.
attention.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, well, why is that door opening? And then I saw a pair of feet go down, these boots. And it was someone there. I just assumed they were pissing, because like they were moving around. I saw the feet move. It's not like they were just all of a sudden a pair of boots there and they were like a statue. No, the bitch was moving around. He just didn't leave the end of the truck, and not to where I could see his body or him
What
or
the
her,
fuck?
whoever it was. And so I just assumed they were taking a piss, but I was like, why is the door open? But then I was like, well, maybe they walked around the truck and I just missaw what I saw. Like maybe they like stepped up on the foot ledging. You know how that's got like a bumper thing you can step up on.
Yeah.
It's like basically a bump guard
Mhm.
to keep vehicles from going up underneath, and also a dock guard, which stops you from like whatever.
Going through the.
Yeah. So, anyways, I thought to myself at first, I was like, well, maybe it was the trucker. I just didn't, because if he got out on the other side, because all of his curtains were closed on his cab.
Yeah, he was asleep.
So I just assumed like maybe he got out of his truck, out of the driver, and he just went and checked on his load. You know, just maybe it got the better of him, because I've done that with loads that weren't like, you know, no touch freight, you know, like that you had to load yourself or you saw them load and blah, blah, blah. And so I was thinking maybe that at first. But what made me realize that I ruled that out is because the reason I was able to see his feet so clearly, just so people understand this, there's trucks coming in and out of the parking lot over here. And when these trucks are coming in with their big ass headlights, the light, you know, will hit the other trucks that are parked in front, but the light goes underneath all the trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So I was getting light coming through and lighting up his feet because of the light coming from these trucks over here that are going underneath the other truck, you know, his truck parked. And that's why I saw his feet, you know, how I was able to see it so clearly, because there was a truck just sitting there waiting to turn into like basically either waiting to turn into a fuel pump or waiting for something over here.
Yeah.
And it was his headlights were just constantly shining directly, you know, causing the illumination underneath. And then all of a sudden, I watched his feet, like as if he climbed up, stepped up and got into the thing, and then the door shut. And then that was the end. I never saw anyone get, because when you climb inside of a tractor cab and you're watching a tractor, like you're watching the front end of the truck, that thing rocks a little bit when you climb up inside and close the door. You would see it move.
Mm-hmm.
That never even shifted once. I never saw any indication of the driver door being opened. Because if the driver door had been opened, I'm sitting at an angle where I would see the mirror swivel out and the door open, because I can see enough of the front.
And the cab light might turn on even.
Yeah, and illuminate around the blackout curtains, you know, because it's not fully sealed.
Yeah.
You know. And no, that's what I witnessed. It was the weirdest fucking thing.
Wait, so you saw somebody
Yeah, it was
crawl
like,
out of the back of a truck?
Yeah.
And then crawl back into it? Or climb back into it, rather?
I didn't necessarily
Dude.
see them step out of it. I just saw a boot come down, and because I was already looking at the door.
And not like a cowboy boot.
Mm-mm.
Like
No, it was like a rubber, like a muck boot.
something you walk into like a river in or something.
Yeah, you would wear into like mud slop and stuff
What
like
the
that.
fuck?
That's what the boot looked like, at least. It didn't look like a
Do you know
cowboy
what,
boot. I wore
do you
cowboy
know what
boots.
roughly what year it was?
This was in 2004, 15, 14? Either 2014 or 2015.
Gotcha.
Somewhere like that. And because I was a greenhorn, I'd
Yeah.
only had my CDL for, I think, like a year and a half, 2 years. Or I had it, you know, I had longer than that. I had it for about I think I had it about, if it was 2014, I had it for 2 years at least, roughly 2 years. And then, but the thing was is that I was still a greenhorn though, because I wasn't doing OTR stuff. Like this was the first time I was actually out doing that. Everything else I did was local, so I would just like drive something from our location, do whatever, you know, if I needed to, and I would bring it back and park it the same day. Like it was all local for farming and stuff.
Dude.
Did you fart?
I did.
Oh, I can smell it from here. Way to ruin the story. I was like, damn, dude, that's something foul going on here. Woo, boy.
Yeah, boy.
I didn't smell that shit. Damn. So, with that being said, moving on from the fart, it's starting the AC's sucking it out right now, so it's going away slowly. But that's a dense fart, dude.
That's palpable.
Hell yeah, dude.
I cannot believe that you saw somebody crawl out of the truck. I mean,
Well,
at the 2 in the morning, I wouldn't be like,
I wouldn't have guessed it because, dude, I saw guys get out of trucks and go check their load and
course,
stuff,
yeah.
and they could have been, you know, even though it's 2 in the morning, it may be 2 o'clock in the morning and late for you, but for some, these truckers, their schedule is like that's like middle of the day for them.
they might be starting.
and starting stuff like that, and they're just like checking their stuff. They just picked up the trailer an hour ago from some place. They stopped at the first truck stop to fuel up and
Make
get
sure
what they
everything's
need.
tied down, locked up.
Yeah, and they do their next like little check on their truck, and then they get on their merry way an hour later. You never know. So
But
it's
there
like
would be no need for a driver to be wearing muck boots in a parking lot
no.
or wearing.
Well, the thing is, what was behind where that truck was just a field. It was just there was no fence or barrier. It was like there was nothing built over there. It was just like field and terrain that was going up into the mountains and shit.
the hell?
Yeah, so it was all dark behind it. That was another thing. It was all dark back there. So it's like I had no light source shining this way either. So that's what also made it easier to see because the light was all coming from behind back here for me. It wasn't like so it wasn't blinding me. You know what I mean? It was like coming from behind me. back here. So like I didn't have light shooting me in the face. You know what I mean? So like I could see everything clear. It was illuminating everything up from all the trucks being in the parking lot and doing their stuff over here, and it was shining light up underneath the truck.
Wow.
So I don't at the time I thought it was weird.
That's about it, right?
I was like, did someone just climb back inside the back of that fucking truck? Like that's all I thought. But I was like, not my problem.
Pretty much.
That was my mindset.
Time to go
'cause it's
sleep.
like, I was also a greenhorn, and this is the first time I was out doing driving through the mountains in a truck. So it's like my mind was on other shit. Like I wasn't like going, oh, someone's up to no good. Like that's not something that went through my mind really, because it was just like, yeah, was that weird to
why
see?
would it? I mean, it may be strange, but it's not like
Yeah.
a red flag for somebody who's new to it. That could be anything at that point. Wow, Ben, what the hell?
And the thing is, I did not really bring association to that event, like witnessing something so minimal like that to something that could be more profound until recently, really just digging through, like diving into it again now. And the thing is, I had some thoughts about it after it happened. I want to say within a couple years after that. I was like thinking about it because that was when I learned about a few different like like truck driver murderers and serial killers and the people we talked about earlier, stuff like that. That I was like, that I witnessed something that was,
Potentially you did. Potentially
know?
you saw something like that. I mean, that I'm sure is something that the FBI would love to be like, hey, tell us about in 2015 whenever you saw it. But now they're like, okay, we can't really do shit about it.
But you also have to remember too, is that something I'm going to lay out there when I was telling you about the other day. You can fabricate. I've read about some certain other things which I won't even mess with that. I'm just going to talk about the seals. If that was a sealed trailer, right? If that person is driving that trailer, let's say they're going across state line, I don't know where they're driving. Maybe they're a local driver. I don't know. Maybe they stay within the state. They travel, but they stay within the state, and they're always on the go. They never really come back. They're always like go, go, go for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, even though it's not across state lines. But since it's within the same state and they're like picking up hot spots or, things like that, that would require them to, they'll end up having a sleeper and sleep in their cab, things like that nature. If it's a no-touch freight, because I couldn't imagine anyone having a torture chamber inside of a freight container unless it was a no-touch freight concept.
It would have to
with
be.
a seal on it to keep people at DOT checkpoints, things like that. Because they set up DOT checkpoints within the states too, like not just at the state lines. They'll set up random and with portable weight scales, everything on like a service road of a highway, and they'll put up a sign and have a state trooper sitting there, pretty much saying, "Pull the fuck over."
Yep.
They'll do that, and I've gone through it. So it's like the only way I could imagine that being a plausible, one of these killing chambers, is if it was a no-touch freight kind of setup where they had a seal on it that would negate people from opening it. But then it raised the question, well, how could they have a seal on there and they're opening it and breaking that seal, right? Well, there are different types of seals out there, and if you fabricated a seal that mimicked and you had a network, so they talked about in this whole serial killer thing of truck drivers where there's like a network going on that they're trying to prove and capture and stop, that means it is a layered compartmentalized thing across an area, which means you would have to have connections to someone working with you. And if you were fabricating a seal that, like, because there are some seals I've seen that look almost like grommets. They're like rubber rings that inset into, when you close it and latch it and swivel it around, depending on the setup that they have, they will have it looks like a grommet almost, but it's not a grommet. It's just something it's a round circular type seal that sits inside the hole where you would put a lock through. It like gets seated inside that. So if you were to open it, you have to break that seal to get it out. It would rotate it and then it would snap it, right? But it's still set in place, but you can still see from the side it's broken. But if you had a fabricated seal and you had a network connection of and where you had the resources were put in the right place, you could fabricate one of those seals to where it's not ever actually broken.
It seems like it'd be pretty easy to do, especially if you were a
And they would have it set up to where when they're getting to where they need to go and they're going to go ahead and like that seal has to get broken, they will have the ability to either put something in place or maybe rotate it a certain way, and then now it's actually sealed.
Yeah.
And then when they go to inspect it, they show it's fully sealed and intact. They break the seal. No harm, no foul. Like they're not found out. I could see something like that being a reality, heavily, actually.
Imagine
Not the traditional seals, though.
Yeah.
Like, the ones that dangle over. No, you're going to snap those. There's no fabricating that.
Unless they have lots of those little like fabricated seals, and then the driver can go put a brand new one on
like
there.
basically a replica with the same numbers.
Yeah. Same tags. Same
you would have to
everything.
have a connection. You would have to have, that's what I was telling you. They would have to have a connection to these things.
That's what it feels like to me, like inside of the trucking industry, the dispatching systems, the companies who are filling the cargo. The only reasonable explanation that I would have for a killing chamber cargo truck is if these companies are fabricating all these numbers and are tied in with something larger than just some random dude killing people.
Yeah.
It would have to be something along the lines of trafficking people, organ harvesting, a huge network of off the books, off the record organizations. Think CIA, think fucking cartel who are paying off these large
and
companies.
it could be cartel involved things too.
Yeah.
Because we know the cartel has their fingers and things up here in the United States.
And they're very rich.
Oh yeah, hell, I got threatened by members of the cartel, and I didn't even know they were the cartel, honestly, until later. This is when I was a kid. I'm not kidding. One of my best buddies was there with me. I grew up with. I don't know if it's permission to say his name or not.
Don't do that.
Call
him
I'm
Jonathan.
We'll call him Johnny. Where me and Johnny were in his pickup truck. I was not 16 yet. I was 15. He was like a few months older than me. We're in the same grade. Like we're best friends. We're in his pickup truck. We realized that we needed to turn around and go back to his parents' house, and because we forgot something. I don't remember what it was, but we used this driveway to turn around real quick. Well, his truck was an older truck. It was a 60s model pickup truck.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, dude.
Badass ride.
Good old country boys. And we pulled into this driveway. Well, this driveway, this is out in the country, sticks, and it's here in Texas. There's this property has it's longer than a football field. It's like 4 football fields long.
Pretty standard for a
And
country driveway.
it's like kind of like you see. It looks like something you would see like Bruce Wayne's manor.
Cool.
Like type of driveway, right? And it had these giant eagles and like statues up at the front, the entrance where the gate was, right off the road. And we pulled in there, and his truck died.
Oh shit!
When he tried to put it in reverse, it just died. Like, cause that truck ran like shit sometimes, and so he was like trying to get it started again, and it just was like didn't want to crank over all the way. And while we were sitting there doing that, all of a sudden, dude, we had been in that driveway in front of that gate for maybe 60 seconds. And then boom, way down there, because there was a mansion on the property.
Yeah.
And it was like a ranch style setup of property. It was not a farmer setup. This was a rancher setup. And there's this mansion that's at the end of this driveway, and you can see it on this like on the hilltop.
Mm-hmm.
And then it had like a big fancy barn you would see in the movies, basically, with the red and like all that stuff. They were coming down the driveway, 2 pickups with people inside.
Hauling ass or what?
Yeah, fast. Like
Gotcha.
they weren't just cruising, they weren't just like idling down. No, they're going fast for a driveway. They were going like 15, 20 miles per hour. They came right up to the freaking gate. And then all of a sudden we had a truck pull up behind us outside the gate. They can't, I guess they went out the side, because I found out later there was a way to leave the property.
I'm sure there are
through a
several
back
ways.
way. Yeah. Oh yeah. It was a bunch of Mexican guys. Some of them had tattoos, some didn't. I mean, the ones who had tattoos were at the back, and that's what like caught my attention. I was like 15. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And they're like, what are you doing here? But one of the one who spoke, he spoke English. Obviously, he had a heavy accent, but he's like, what are you doing here? Like, and we're like, oh, we were just trying to turn around, and my truck died. And the guy was like, we'll pull you out, and you can do it in the road.
Okay.
Did not give a fuck.
Okay, sounds good.
But the thing is, when they pulled us out, that put us onto like, because the road right there was slightly at a downhill angle. So like we just started rolling, and like, oh fuck, I'll edit that out. I'll edit that name out. I'll put a bloop on there. God damn it.
Just put a Jonathan.
Jonathan. Jonathan. But yeah, all of a sudden we were going to, God damn, I can't believe I fucked that up.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, dude. I was going downhill. It started to roll downhill, and you know,
Start the car back up.
yeah, it was old school, man. Pop that clutch and boom, like it went going. But we were freaked out after that because,
Oh, fuck yeah.
But then we had heard rumors that it was cartel in that house before that, but no one ever actually deep down really believed it. Us
Yeah.
kids, because it was like we never saw evidence. Oh yeah, they found bodies in that
Damn.
property.
Truck drivers, baby.
Oh yeah, that house is gone now. The whole thing. That property's still there. The driveway's still there, but all the house and the barn wiped off clean. They went and they tore it down after the FBI and a couple other agencies came in there as a joint task
pretty
force
cool.
and cracked it down. And then that's where they discovered the bodies and they were like, oh, it's a cartel house.
Right,
It was
buddy?
a straight up cartel house. Yeah.
Wow, dude.
Anyways,
Thank you all for joining us today.
yeah, we're out of time.
Yeah.
I saw what time it was. That's why I was like, we gotta go.
Again, yeah, thank you all for sticking around. If you made it this far, make sure you like, subscribe on anything that you're watching this. You're on TikTok, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, leave a comment. You're on YouTube, shout out, mad respect.
Yeah.
We love y'all over there. We see you subscribing. We see you
Yep.
in comments. We love y'all.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, send us an email over at smartlyuneducated@gmail.com. It is a real email, smartlyuneducated@gmail.com.
It is very real.
Make sure you send us your scary truck driver emails. Send us any sort of email you got for us.
Yep.
Telling
And
me that you hate me, telling me that you love me. I don't care either way. Send us something.
Before I hit we just completely close out, I'm just gonna say, for anyone, I know that for anyone who heard that last little bit, the story that I shared, my experience, just so you know, I realized that I've been in the position where I get to see, I've witnessed some weird shit.
Yes, you have.
Over the years. And I've always asked myself, why am I always like in these places or in these positions where I witness it, even though I'm not doing anything wrong? All of a sudden, I'm just there and I get to witness it. I realize it's due to the, I think it's because of my natural inclination to always just observe, and I always just watch. And if I didn't have that observational awareness that I have, that I realize I have more than most people do typically, it's like, I bet you that stuff happens around you, the listener, more than you think, and you just don't notice it.
Yeah.
I just pay attention, and I just have noticed that way. But then also, it's really just the industries that the places I've worked, and like people, places I've been. Like I've just been in the places where there was a higher chance of witnessing something of these natures that happen. You know what I mean? You go to a truck stop at 2:00 in the morning at the, going to the mountains, you're gonna see some weird fucking shit.
Yes, you
just
are.
hang out and watch. You're gonna see some weird fucking shit. I tell you what, dude.
All right.
But anyways, that's it. That's all I got. We will catch you guys later.
I know this is kind of a darker one.
Oh.
We will probably try to have a brighter one in the coming days. So
Is it darker? It's not darker.
it's pretty dark.
Nah,
All right,
later,
later, everybody.
all sunshines and rainbows.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye everyone. You can say bye one more time.
Adios.
Bye. Bye.